Today we'll start with symbolic interpretive anthropology. What does it say? The basic idea is symbolic interpretive way, that they say culture is a system of symbols. Okay, and the aim is to study symbols in local and specific context. That is, in the cultural context itself. So they say that what is culture? So culture को समझना है. So they say that culture lies in individuals' interpretation of things and events around. That means अगर आपको कल्चर समझना है या कल्चर क्या है, वो एक तरीके का डिक्शनरी है हमारे दिमाग में. ओके, एंड वो डिक्शनरी, जैसे मान लो आपने कोई टेक्स्ट पढ़ा, आपको उसमें कोई ऐसा वर्ड मिला जो मीनिंग आपको पता नहीं है उस वर्ड की, तो आप क्या करोगे, उस वर्ड के लिए डिक्शनरी में जाओगे एंड उस वर्ड को डिक्शनरी में देखोगे उसका मतलब क्या है, राइट? ऐसे ही कल्चर एक डिक्शनरी है आपके दिमाग. एंड when you experience an event or a phenomena around you, in order to find meaning or attach meaning to that event, आप उस डिक्शनरी में रेफर करोगे कि हाउ शुड आई इंटरप्रेट दिस इवेंट. जैसे कि एक अननोन वर्ड है, उसको आप डिक्शनरी में सर्च कर रहे हो, वैसे ही कोई इवेंट को एक्सपीरियंस करोगे तो आप डिक्शनरी में जाओगे और उसका मतलब खोजोगे. दैट इज इन योर माइंड. तो कल्चर इज, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड एज अ डिक्शनरी. एंड व्हाट does it do? It gives meaning to our lived experience. It gives meaning to our lived experiences. Okay, now let's take the case of एक ट्राइब है और एक इंडिविजुअल अर्बन इंडिविजुअल है, से दिल्ली हाइट है. नाउ वो जंगल में रहता है, ट्राइब, ओके, हंटर गैदरर. एंड दिल्ली हाइट बेसिकली दिल्ली की किसी लोअर मिडिल क्लास कम्युनिटी में रहता है. अब हमने क्या किया कि दोनों को उठा के हमने यहाँ के सबसे पॉश एरिया से फ्रेंड्स कॉलोनी या डिफेंस कॉलोनी में घर दिला दिया दोनों को. नाउ व्हाट विल हैपन, घर दोनों के लिए सेम है, बहुत बड़ा घर है, उसमें 10-12 कमरे हैं, बट दिल्ली हाइट उसको देख रहा है कि एज ए प्रॉस्पेरिटी, मैं राइज कर गया, मैं रिच हो गया. बट एक ट्राइबल, वो उसको देखेगा कि मुझे उस 4 दीवारी में बंद करके रख दिया. बेसिकली ही विल सी दिस एज अ रिस्ट्रिक्शन ऑन हिज फ्रीडम. इवेंट सेम था, ओके, दैट हैपेंड आउटसाइड, बट उसको परसीव कैसे किया गया? एक ने परसीव किया दैट आई एम रिच, आई एम प्रॉस्परस, अदर वन इज परसीविंग इट लाइक कि मुझे रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया गया, एज इफ आई एम ट्रैप्ड इन अ जेल और अ प्रिजन. Okay, that means दोनों की डिक्शनरी अलग अलग थी, and that's why the same event happened to both of them, but both of them interpreted in a different manner. Okay, so मतलब what is giving meaning to their lived experience? A dictionary that is there in their mind. Okay, so whatever they are feeling, they basically give meaning to it by a dictionary that is present in their mind. So this is what they are saying. Culture gives meaning to our lived experience. It's a set of dictionary. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे बात आती है कि that if we are communicating, suppose करो if I am communicating with you, and if I am making any kind of communicating, does not simply means exchange of words. It's social interaction. Communication can happen at, we have seen, like exchange of goods and services, exchange of language, or exchange of women also. If I am communicating with you in any manner, that means we have the shared meaning of the same event. तो आपने मुझे say if you are doing the transaction, you gave me the money, say some currency, so that currency matters to me as well. That's why I'm taking that currency, and in lieu of that currency I'm offering you some kind of services, isn't it? So अगर वो currency आप basically say US में जाके दो, Indian currency, anybody will take it? No. And will anybody offer any kind of services against it? No. So in that case communication is not being possible because shared meaning नहीं है. आपके लिए वो करेंसी इंपॉर्टेंट है, उसकी वैल्यू आप उसको फाड़ के नहीं रख सकते, बट उसके लिए तो गांधी प्रिंटेड ऑन ए पेपर डजंट मेक्स अ डिफरेंस उसके लिए, एंड दैट्स व्हाई द शेयर्ड मीनिंग इज नॉट देयर, एंड सिंस देयर इज नो शेयर्ड मीनिंग देयर इज नो कम्युनिकेशन और देयर इज नो सोशल इंटरैक्शन, सो वी शुड हैव शेयर्ड मीनिंग्स, सिमिलर मीनिंग्स, और वी शुड हैव सेम डिक्शनरी इन ऑर्डर टू कम्युनिकेट, ओनली देन द सोसाइटी विल फंक्शन. ओके, अभी बहुत रिसेंटली एक केस आया कि सऊदी में दैट ए हिंदू फैमिली, उसने ऐसा बनाया और एक सऊदी के इंडिविजुअल ने इसको रिपोर्ट कर दिया बोल के कि ये लोग नाजी गवर्नमेंट को सपोर्ट करते हैं, हिटलर को सपोर्ट करने वाले लोग हैं. अभी 2-3 हफ्ते पहले की बात है. नाउ दिस सिंबल मीन्स समथिंग टू मी और से हिंदूज, बट सिंस देयर वाज नॉट शेयर्ड मीनिंग दैट एक्चुअली ब्रोक द सोशल इंटरैक्शन. Okay, miscommunication हो गया. So that means the dictionary should be same in the society or in a cultural group so that we can communicate. मैंने कुछ बोला, आपने कुछ समझा, तो communication कैसे हो पाए? So this is what they are saying. Culture is a system of symbols and the aim is to study symbols in their specific local context. Moreover, culture gives meaning to our lived experiences. Okay, so now what happens? The school is subdivided into two approaches. One is interpretive, the other is symbolic approach. Now interpretive अगर आप देखोगे तो this is influenced by Max Weber. Okay, and they see symbols as vehicles of culture. So एक सिंबल सी लाइन में अगर इंटरप्रेटिव को एक्सप्लेन करना है, that I'll explain later on, but I'm telling you the line. It says that beliefs, however unintelligible, make sense when seen in context of culture. Beliefs, however unintelligible, makes sense when seen in context of culture. इसका मतलब क्या है? Any kind of activity, any kind of beliefs, हो सकता है आपको कितनी सेंसलेस लग रही हो, कितनी बेकार लग रही हो, ओके, जिसका कोई सेंस ना बन रहा हो, लेकिन इट्स ओनली बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव दैट डिक्शनरी जिसमें उसकी मीनिंग के बारे में कुछ लिखा हो. ओके, आपने कोई वर्ड सुना, आपको उसका सेंस क्यों नहीं बन रहा है? मैं इससे सपोज इफ आई से स्पीक चाइनीज इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू, ओके, when I'm saying a word, if you're not making any sense of it, not because that word is senseless, but because you don't have the dictionary to give meaning to that word. आपके दिमाग में वो डिक्शनरी नहीं है. अगर वो डिक्शनरी आ जाएगी तो फिर आपको उस वर्ड का सेंस भी बनने लग जाएगा. So in the same way, any kind of belief or activities, no matter howsoever unintelligible, मतलब it is not making any sense to you, will make sense only when you see it in the context of the culture. आप उस context में देखोगे, आप उस डिक्शनरी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखोगे, तो you will make sense of it. So different people make sense of may give different meanings to the lived experience differently, क्योंकि उनकी डिक्शनरी अलग अलग है. Okay, and this is the idea that is headed by Clifford Geertz, who says that symbols are vehicles of culture. That means shared meaning of the symbols, it basically is necessary for any two individuals in a cultural group to communicate with each other. अगर शेयर्ड मीनिंग नहीं होगी तो हम कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पाएंगे. आई विल से समथिंग, आप उसका कुछ और मतलब निकालोगे, आप कुछ बोलोगे, मैं उसका कुछ मतलब निकालूंगा, लेकिन हमारे बीच में जो मैं कहना चाह रहा हूं, जो मैं एक्सप्रेस करना चाह रहा हूं और जो आपसे एक्शन एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा हूं, दैट विल नेवर हैपन बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव द शेयर्ड मीनिंग ऑफ द सिंबल्स. ओके, सो दिस इज द बेसिक आइडिया ऑफ इंटरप्रेटिव अप्रोच. नाउ सिंबॉलिक that is influenced by Emily Durkheim and Max Gluckman. Basically structural functionist approach से influence है. So what they say, मतलब the idea of symbols are operators in social processes. स्ट्रक्चर फंक्शनिस्ट हैं तो ये बात करेंगे कि स्ट्रक्चर कैसे मेंटेन और क्रिएट होगा. ओके, so they are saying operators in social processes. That means if I have to just like इसके कंटेक्स्ट में एक लाइन में अगर मैं सिंबॉलिक को समराइज करना है तो इट वुड से दैट एक्शंस आर गाइडेड बाय symbolic meaning. So you see some kind of symbols, you have some kind of meaning of it, and this meaning will guide your actions. Okay, you make sense, or you will do something, you act in certain manner because you interpreted a symbol in a particular manner. So that's why, and this is your actions will actually bring stability to the society. Okay, so actions are guided by symbolic meaning. I'll elaborate upon it. Now the scholar is Victor Turner. This is the most basic summary of symbolic interpretive. Okay, आपको कुछ नहीं याद रहे, बस आप इतना भी लिख के आओगे, then only it will help. हाँ, just wait. When I'll talk about both of them, उसके बाद अगर नहीं समझ में आएगा, then I'll explain. So let's talk about the interpretive approach. Of Geats. So Geats was influenced by Max Weber idea of social action and वर्स्टेहन. ठीक है, तो हमने स्ट्रक्चर फंक्शनिज्म में डर्कहाइम का आइडिया सोशल फैक्ट पढ़ा था, इफ यू रिमेंबर. तो सोशल फैक्ट क्या है? इट्स वे ऑफ थिंकिंग, एक्टिंग, बिहेविंग that is external to us and having an element of coercion attached to it. Okay, that makes us behave in a particular manner. That means डर्कहाइम ने बोला कि इंडिविजुअल की कोई फ्री विल नहीं होती है. बीइंग इन अ सोसाइटी यू आर फोर्स्ड टू एक्ट इन अ सर्टेन मैनर. ओके, विदाउट एनी चॉइस यू आर फोर्स्ड टू. यू आर नाउ Weber says an individual or a human being is not like a matter. A simple एक matter नहीं है जैसे ये that can be pushed or pulled by forces. But a man is suspended in webs of significance, which he himself has created. इसका मतलब क्या है? He is saying that कि just like डर्कहाइम said कि आपको सोसाइटी फोर्स कर रही है एक तरीके से एक्ट करने की, आप नहीं डिसाइड कर रहे. He is saying नहीं, I am not, or human being is not like a matter like this inanimate object जिसको जहां मर्जी धक्का दे दिया, जैसे पुश और पुल कर दिया और वो वैसे एक्ट करेगा, जिसमें जहां मर्जी फोर्स लगाओगे उसके हिसाब से रिएक्ट करेगा. नो, man is not a matter that can be pushed or pulled by some external forces, but man is suspended in a webs of significance. That means हमने अपने अराउंड एक दुनिया बना रखी है, उसको हमने मीनिंग दी है. Okay, and that's why our every action is decided or thought upon. It's not only we are living in a society, तो सोसाइटी जो बोलेगी, ये सोसाइटी जो हम पे इम्पोज करेगी हम वो फॉलो करेंगे. It does not happen like this. But we do have a free will. We give meaning to our action. We think about our action and then we do it. मतलब आप अपने हर एक्शन को जस्टिफाई कर सकते हो. ओके, यू कैन जस्टिफाई कि हाँ आपने ऐसा किया, क्यों किया. यू हैव द रीजन फॉर इट. दैट इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज सोशल एक्शन, एन आइडिया अगेंस्ट सोशल फैक्ट. मतलब उन्होंने ये नहीं बोला कि आप सोसाइटी को बिल्कुल ध्यान में नहीं रखते हो. ठीक है, सोसाइटी को आप ध्यान में रखते हुए भी आप अपने चॉइसेस खुद डिसाइड करते हो. You decide that what needs to be done. You can actually give reasons for each and every action. Okay, and that's why he's saying man is not a matter that is moved by push or pull, but rather man is suspended in the webs of significance he himself has created. That means there is some kind of dictionary that actually gives meaning to my lived experience. Based on that dictionary, I will decide what my action would be. Now, Clifford Geertz says that web of significance is nothing but culture. Okay, that web of significance, that is that dictionary, is nothing but culture. So, Geertz वेब्स ऑफ सिग्निफिकेंस इज कल्चर. ठीक है, हमने अपने आसपास चीजों को मतलब एक मीनिंग दी है. हाउ वी विल इंटरप्रेट थिंग्स अराउंड अस, हाउ वी विल गिव मीनिंग टू अवर एक्सपीरियंसेस. ओके, एंड दैट इज नथिंग बट कल्चर. सो हियर इफ यू वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड कल्चर गीट्स के हिसाब से, so you will have to recreate that dictionary. Okay, and for that you need to step into the shoes of the actor. So in order to recreate the culture, that means हमारे दिमाग में एक डिक्शनरी है, उसको recreate करना है. So that's why you have to step into the shoes of the actor who basically is playing role in a particular cultural context. In order to understand the culture, in order to understand the meaning to their experiences, you need to step into the shoes of the actor, and this is called as verstehen. Okay, verstehen. ठीक है, that is stepping into the shoes of the actor. अब उसके बाद Geertz uses what is called as hermeneutics. This is an idea that was given by William Dilthey. So hermeneutics is derived from the word Hermes, which means an interpreter god. जैसे हमारे religion में नारद मुनि. Okay, so he is an interpreter, messenger god, जिनका काम होता था गॉड्स के मैसेजेस को इंटरप्रेट करके ह्यूमंस तक पहुंचाना. ऐसे ही ग्रीक गॉड थे हर्मीस, whose work was to interpret the god's messages and tell them to the humans. Now, according to Geertz, anthropologists should act as an interpreter. Okay, and what he should interpret? Interpret any particular cultural event in its context. Okay, तो Geertz ने एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल दिया कि सपोज करो कि मान लो मैंने एक लव लेटर लिखा. Okay, and that love letter was supposed to be given to a particular girl with whom I was communicating for say 1 decade or maybe for 5-7 years. अब हमारे कुछ कोड वर्ड्स हैं, okay, which she can make sense of it. But suppose that love letter accidentally falls in anyone's hand. तो अब आप उस वर्ड को, आप उसको लव लेटर को जब पढ़ोगे तो you will understand the literal meaning of whatever I have written, right? And in that case, what will happen? अर्थ का अनर्थ हो जाएगा वो, because the context is missing. You are interpreting the literal meaning of that letter. और या फिर किसी ने, अब जैसे गीता लिखी गई, भगवत गीता, okay, so that was a message that was given by Krishna to Arjun, ठीक है? तो अब आप समझो कि वो एक कंटेक्स्ट में एक मैसेज दिया गया था. That means they both are standing in the battle front, okay, and Arjun is confused whether to pick up the weapons against his own family members or not. And Krishna basically gives him the lesson, clears all his doubts. अच्छा, अगर उस भगवत गीता को जो उस संवाद है, वो जो कन्वर्सेशन है, if you pick it out of the context and आप उसको लिटरली समझने की कोशिश करोगे, कृष्ण ने क्या बोला, अर्जुन ने क्या बोला, just the literal conversation, it will make no sense to you. And that's why we require somebody who can tell us or who can interpret that context, that text along with the context. Okay, so here he is saying that anthropologist should act as the interpreter. So once you step into the shoes of the actor, you are best placed to understand any event or an act within the context, within the specific local cultural context. So anthropologists should act as an interpreter, मतलब जो सबसे सही मीनिंग दे पाएगा उस पर्टिकुलर एक्ट की, उस कंटेक्स्ट. ओके, जस्ट लाइक हम लोग को किसी गुरु की जरूरत होती है, सम आचार्य से जो बेसिकली हमें गीता का मतलब उसके कंटेक्स्ट में बताएं, द वन हु बेसिकली अंडरस्टैंड द कंटेक्स्ट. एल्स गीता की बहुत सारी ट्रांसलेशंस आती हैं, बट पीपल आर स्टिल पेइंग thousands of rupees or say they are attending sessions and all in order to understand the conversation within the context. So these people who are basically मतलब जिसमें से जो genuine लोग हैं, जो basically who are telling us or reciting Gita, they basically are telling us not the literal translation of it, but understanding or interpreting Gita within the context. Okay, and that is what anthropologists should do. When you go to study a particular culture, you should step into the shoes of the actor, interpret each and every symbol in that particular context. Okay, and once you have interpreted it, then go for thick description. These are the 3 steps that he says. Verstehen, step into the shoes of the actor, interpret within the context, and then give a thick description. That is, this idea was given by Gilbert Ryle, who compared thick description with thin description by basically comparing 2 acts, blinking and winking. So suppose if I blink like this, simply blinking, and I wink. Okay, now in both the cases, the thin description is like voluntary movements of eyelids. It's just a voluntary movement of eyelids. That is the thin description. But the thick description would be that one is a voluntary movement of eyelids and the other one is sending some kind of conspicuous or some kind of message to the other person. Maybe I might wink in front of you, and that means I am sending some kind of secretive message to you. Okay, and that sign basically will make sense only when seen in the cultural context. नहीं तो simply blinking or voluntary movement of eyelids है ये तो. Okay, that is the thin description of it. So in thick description, you have to explain a particular phenomena along with the context. So that is, create a text with context. Text without context is meaningless. So anthropologists or ethnography should be a text with context. Means आप कोई भी जगह पे जा रहे हो तो यू जस्ट डोंट नीड टू डिस्क्राइब कि ये लोग ऐसे करते हैं, ये लोग वैसे करते हैं, ये लोग सुबह उठ के यहाँ पे आग जला दे रहे हैं, ये लोग ऐसे मैजिकल प्रैक्टिसेस कर रहे हैं. जस्ट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड देयर इमोशनल एंगल, what they are thinking while performing such kind of acts. What is the insecurity that they have? What is the fear that they have? And how this insecurity and fear actually is making them act in a particular manner. Okay, that is the text with the context. Okay, rather than simply explaining a particular text. जैसे कि एक scholar है, उन्होंने बोला कि anthropology, don't write it here, anthropology can make strange familiar and familiar strange. Okay, अब आप समझो कि उस कंटेक्स्ट में अगर आप किसी चीज को कंटेक्स्ट में नहीं बताओगे तो हाउ थिंग्स विल बिकम, थिंग्स विच आर फेमिलियर माइट बिकम स्ट्रेंज. कैसे? तो ही टॉक्स अबाउट अ कम्युनिटी नेम नासिरेमा. ओके, एंड basically they basically talk about a person who formed this community, who was the founder of this community. He talks about a ritual practice which every member of this community actually follows every day. Whenever they get up from the bed, they go to a ritual room that is in their house, in which there is a particular bowl in front of which they will bow down and they will wash their body parts. Plus, they will take up a particular medicine that has been prescribed by their local shaman, okay, to clean their body parts and also to clean their face and other body parts. Okay, and one after another, every community member will go to that ritual room, bow down in front of the bowl and use the medicine that is prescribed by the doctor. Okay, अब उन्होंने ऐसा बताया, बोले कि it was a satire on anthropological writings. Now what is this community? If you read it from here, from opposite side, it is America. And this is Washington. Okay, George Washington actually created and the ritual that we are talking about is nothing but brushing of teeth. Okay, सुबह उठते हैं, बाथरूम में जाते हैं, एक वॉश बेसिन है, वहां पे मंजन होता है, उसको लेके we're cleaning the teeth. Okay, now this is something, how a particular thing which is familiar, if described in certain manner, can become strange because thick description नहीं. Okay, it's only the activity that has been described. कि वो सुबह उठ रहे हैं, ऐसे जा रहे हैं, वैसे जा रहे हैं, and बता रहे हैं. Okay, the activity. Now, if you understand the context of it, the things will make more sense to you. That's why thick description is very much necessary. So, this is what Geertz was saying, and Gilbert Ryle also suggested that when you write the ethnography, the text should be available with the context. Only then it will make sense. And context आप लोगों को समझ में आ गया क्योंकि you have stepped into the shoes of the actor and interpreted the meaning of each and every activity as per their cultural aspect. Okay, and then you have to describe in certain manner. Only then it will make sense, the text with the particular context. Okay, that is the thick description. And now he will be talking about how to use this thick description in first case, that is, अच्छा नहीं, इससे पहले how basically based on this idea how he defines culture. How he will define culture. So he says that culture is historically transmitted pattern of meaning embodied in symbols. Historically transmitted pattern of meaning, that is a dictionary which is embodied in symbols. And what is symbols? A system of inherited conception through which men communicate and develop attitude and knowledge towards life. Historically transmitted pattern of meaning embodied in symbols. आपको रट्टा नहीं मारना इसको, आप इसका मतलब समझ लो कि डिक्शनरी है that is embodied in symbol, pattern of meaning embodied in symbols. Okay, and what is symbol? A system of inherited conception. Okay, a way how you give meaning to your experiences. Okay, inherited conception through which men communicate. If we have shared meaning of the symbol, I can communicate with you. If I say apple, you understand a particular fruit that is red in color, then only I can communicate. Okay, system of inherited conception through which men communicate and develop attitude and knowledge towards life. How you see or how you view this outer world. So if I say कि chicken है जैसे मान लो, if I am a vegetarian, okay, so I will feel disgust. You can only understand that disgust only if you are a vegetarian. Else, what will happen? You are a hardcore non-vegetarian. I am feeling disgust, and you might feel temptation. Your mouth might start watering. Okay, so the same symbol, if we have the shared meaning, you can understand my feeling. You can understand it. If we have a different meaning to it, okay, then our communication is not possible. I am feeling disgust. I might puke, and you basically are feeling temptation. You might have a watery mouth. Okay, because the same symbol means different to us. So, system of inherited conception through which men communicate, perpetuate and develop attitude, knowledge towards life. This is what Keats described as symbol. Okay, so here he is saying that symbols की जो shared meaning है इसी के through social interactions भी होगा. And ordered system of meaning help in social interaction. And अगर ये ordered system of meaning नहीं है, shared meaning नहीं है, तो social interaction will break down. Now this was the idea that was explained in first case study, that is Javanese funeral. Okay, let's see this Javanese funeral. Now what actually was happening here, that in Java, as soon as the decolonization started, so their original peasant religion that was very much prevalent. Here in this case, the peasant religion was a mix of Hinduism, Islam and animistic beliefs. This was the peasant religion. ठीक है, काफी ज्यादा लिबरल, काफी ज्यादा सेकुलर, हाइब्रिड टाइप का था. बट व्हाट हैपेंस पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस, देयर वाज अ राइज ऑफ हार्डकोर इस्लामिक पार्टी, हार्डकोर इस्लामिक रिलीजन. ओके, एंड दे सजेस्टेड दैट अब लोगों को हार्डकोर इस्लाम या ट्रेडिशनल इस्लाम को फॉलो करना चाहिए. दिस एक्चुअली क्रिएटेड टेंशन. तो दो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बनी. वन इज पेरमाई political party which actually supported the native religion. वो बोलते थे कि सेकुलरिज्म होना चाहिए और नेटिव रिलीजन को ही हम फॉलो करेंगे, हम वी विल नॉट मूव टुवर्ड्स हार्डकोर ट्रेडिशनल इस्लाम. and another political party called as Masjumi, who were Muslim hardliners. जो चाह रहे थे कि सब लोग शिफ्ट कर जाए इस्लाम की तरफ. ओके, नाउ दिस वाज द कंडीशन इन जावा. अब एक विलेज में क्या होता है, सो हियर इन Javanese funeral there is a phenomena, means वहां पे ज्यादा रोते वोते नहीं थे. वहां पे they do not cry a lot, they do not weep a lot, they do not grieve a lot. Okay, so there is what is called as willed serenity and detachment. This is called as ikla, an atmosphere of composure. मतलब they do not want to cry a lot, they basically willfully reject a relationship which is not possible. बोले कि basically extreme culture, sadness or extreme crying and all, or extreme shock is more harmful than being sad. तो ज्यादा रोना नहीं चाहते. जैसे कि एक ट्रेडिशनल नॉर्थ इंडिया में अगर कोई मर गया किसी के यहाँ पे, तो कैसे बहुत ज्यादा तेज तेज रोते हैं लोग. बट इन दिस विलेज दे बिलीव इन विल्ड सेरेनिटी. विल्ड मीन्स अपनी इच्छा से, सेरेनिटी मीन्स काम एंड कंपोज एटमॉस्फेयर. ओके, एंड डिटैचमेंट मीन्स दे देमसेल्फ से दैट कि वी आर ब्रेकिंग ऑफ द रिलेशनशिप विद द पर्सन हु इज डेड नाउ. ओके, दैट रिलेशनशिप इज no more existing, that cannot be carried out. So they are sad, but they believe shock brings more harm, and that's why they do not believe in bereavement, they do not believe in crying. तो वहां पे ऐसा this atmosphere is called as ikla. तो वहां पे जब funeral होता है किसी का, तो what happens, people come, they basically eat food, they go back. They don't even go to the family members in order to console them कि कोई बात नहीं, अच्छा लड़का था, जो भी था, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. They don't engage in any sort of communication like this. Simple, they'll come, eat food, go back. Okay, and that's why the atmosphere is completely calm, composed, no bereavement, no cryings and all that happens. Now next thing, यहाँ पे क्या हुआ कि एक 14 साल के लड़के की डेथ हो जाती है. डेथ ऑफ अ 14-year-old boy. इसकी वजह से क्या होता है, when a 14-year-old boy died, his parents actually called for the village priest to perform the last rituals. अभी तक इकला चल रहा था. His parents called the village priest to perform here. The village priest refused to perform the last ritual, citing the presence of Parmai political party poster at the door of the boy's house. मैं बोला कि उस बच्चे के घर के बाहर परमाई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का पोस्टर लगा हुआ है. दैट मींस दैट पार्टी दैट वाज सपोर्टिंग द नेटिव रिलीजन. और उस पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के पोस्टर को देख के उसने क्या बोला कि दिस बॉय बिलोंग्स टू अ डिफरेंट रिलीजन, and that's why I will not perform the last rites of that boy. This actually led to breakdown of atmosphere of composer. क्यों? Because political party or political symbol was interpreted as religious symbol. तो उन्होंने क्या बोला था गेट्स ने कि जब तक shared meaning है, ordered system of meaning will make sure that social interaction takes place. But what happened here, the political symbol was interpreted as a religious symbol by the village priest, and due to this misinterpretation or different meaning, यहाँ पे social interaction breakdown हो गया, which would have been possible अगर वो आता वहां पे last rites करके चला जाता, तो ikla would have been maintained. But what actually happened, he interpreted or he saw the political poster as a religious symbol, and due to which the shared meaning was not existing and the social interaction broke down. So उसने वही बात बोली थी कि क्लिफर्ड गिट्स ने कि that ordered system of meaning will create social interaction between you and me. And since there is no ordered system of meaning, that means political party का जो symbol था that was interpreted as a religious symbol, this actually created miscommunication and the social interaction broke down. And this is how ICLA, what Clifford Geertz says, unraveled. That means it broke down completely and people started to cry, people started to, so that atmosphere of composer, which was supposed to be followed after the funeral, that no more existed. क्यों? क्योंकि वो social interaction ही break down हो चुका है. Okay, so okay, अब ये लिख लो. As political symbol was interpreted as religious symbol. So this is a thick description of a phenomena जिसको आप शायद एक आउटसाइडर देखता तो बोलता कि कम्युनल टेंशन है यहाँ पे. ओके, बट व्हेन अंडरस्टूड इन द कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ दैट स्पेसिफिक कल्चर, तो वहां पे आप देख रहे हो कि देयर इज अ मिसकम्युनिकेशन दैट इज हैपनिंग बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ शेयर्ड मीनिंग ऑफ सिंबल्स. ओके, एक के लिए वो सिंबल क्या था, एक पॉलिटिकल सिंबल था कि मेरी पार्टी अलग है, तुम्हारी पार्टी अलग है, दैट्स इट. ओके, वी आर स्टिल द पार्ट ऑफ द सेम कल्चर, बट द अदर पर्सन इंटरप्रेटेड दैट पॉलिटिकल सिंबल एज अ रिलीजियस सिंबल. अगर आप परमाई पार्टी को सपोर्ट कर रहे हो तो देन यू आर ऑफ अ डिफरेंट रिलीजन, and if I'm supporting Mass party, then I'm of a different religion. That is political symbol understood as a religious one. इसकी वजह से interaction was not possible, and this actually led to breakdown of the social interaction. Okay, so this is the thick description of Javanese funeral. Clear है? IKLA. Okay, now another one, Balinese cockfight. Clifford Geertz, of course, वहीं पे पढ़ रहे थे. Balinese cockfight. So here he wrote an article named Deep Play, a note on Balinese cockfight. Okay, you just need to remember that deep play. So what actually happened? Clifford Geertz and his wife went to a village in Bali. Okay, एंड वहां पे इनिशियली व्हाट हैपेंड, नोबडी एक्चुअली वाज पेइंग एनी अटेंशन टू देम। एकदम खड़े हुए थे, कोई आसपास से गुजरता था, कोई उसके ऊपर ध्यान नहीं देता था। ओके, इन दिस विलेज व्हाट एक्चुअली हैपेंड, दैट कॉक फाइट वाज इलीगल। एक दिन क्या हुआ, पुलिस की रेड पड़ती और हर कोई अपनी जगह से भाग जाता है, अपने अपने घर में छुप जाता है, और गीट्स और उसकी वाइफ भी एक घर में जाके छुप जाते हैं। तो पुलिस नॉक्स एवरी डोर एंड दे आस्क कि क्या यहाँ पे कॉक फाइट हो रही थी, और वाज कॉक फाइट गोइंग टू बी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड? एवरीबॉडी वाज सेइंग नो, एंड देन दे केम टू दैट हाउस जहाँ पे गीट्स और उसकी वाइफ भी छुपे थे। दे आस्क्ड गीट्स एंड हिज वाइफ कि क्या यहाँ पे कॉक फाइट होती? दे सेड नो, नथिंग ऑफ दैट सॉर्ट वाज हैपनिंग। एंड then the next question was, as they were foreigners, so then the next question was, why are you here? Okay, what are you doing in this village? Okay, then the person जिसके घर में वो लोग छुपे हुए थे, he comes forward and says these are people from different universities, okay, and they have come here to write about our village. Okay, now that was a very shocking revelation or some kind of serendipity also for Geats, because initially these people were behaving as they did not existed. And now when the time comes, they know everything about him. Okay, they have full-fledged information. और वो act ऐसे कर रहे थे जैसे वो exist ही नहीं करते. Okay, so that made them realize that here people who are not culturally significant will be hidden, will not be taken care of, will not be even paid any kind of attention to. पर उस particular moment में Geats and his wife became hero. क्यों? क्योंकि उन्होंने बोल दिया कि यहाँ पे कोई cockfight नहीं होने वाली, and that protected the villages. And that very day, Geats and his wife were invited to several houses in that village. और जहाँ पे हर जगह बुला रहे थे और सब चाय वाय पूछ रहे थे, सब बढ़िया एकदम ट्रीट कर रहे थे, और उनसे बोल रहे थे कि आपने क्यों नहीं बताया कि यहाँ पे कॉक फाइट होने वाली है। एंड ही वाज टायर्ड एक्सप्लेनिंग कि व्हाई डिडंट ही टोल्ड। बट इससे क्या हुआ कि इनका रेपो बन गया वहां पे, एंड सिंस द रेपो वाज बिल्ट अप, then what he did, he was invited to a cockfight that was supposed to happen few days later. And here he tried to understand what is this cockfight. So he says that this cockfight for an outsider will be just a game. आप जा रहे हो और कहीं पे लोग कॉक्स को लड़ा रहे हैं, तो you feel like it's a game, people do it for leisure, or maybe it's a game for gambling. But बोले कि thick description में something is different. So he says cocks, this is a double meaning word, and people take care of their cocks in with utmost care. That means cock also refers to male sexual organ and also the male hen, and every person who basically domesticates cock takes good care of it, be it the male hen or the sexual organ. And this is a symbol of respect or masculinity in a particular society. The cocks are the symbol of respect or masculinity in that particular society. And whenever I am using this word cock, it means double meaning, that is male sexual organ as well as the male hen. Okay, so a symbol of respect, and that's why taken utmost care of. Now when talking about cockfight, तो बोले कि it is a symbol, and what kind of symbol it is? अगर आप इसके कंटेक्स्ट में देखोगे, it's a manifestation of local structure. जो सोसाइटल स्ट्रक्चर है, that is किसकी किससे राइवलरी है, that is हायरार्की कैसी है, who is placed with respect to whom, okay, and structure of the overall arrangement of the people in that societal group. So वो पूरी cockfight is a manifestation of the local society. Okay, so it's not only the cocks that are fighting, not even the individuals, but one group is fighting with other, and what is at stake is not just money but also the status of that person. So money can be lost or won, and that is momentary. Loss of money is momentary. इस बार हार गए, अगली बार थोड़ा और कमा लेंगे, ठीक है, but status if lost will be permanent loss. Okay, so that will be staying forever. So here cockfight is the manifestation of the social rivalry between people, and its people do not bet against cock of their own reference group. ऐसा नहीं कि आप किसी भी कॉक पे जाके पैसा लगा दोगे. People do not bet against cock of their own reference group, that is your own lineage, your own clan. And suppose if the cockfight is happening between two villages, so you cannot bet against your own village. So it's not only leisure, it's not only gamble, but manifestation of social rivalry. And any kind of conflict is manifested means displayed by this cockfight, and also resolved by cockfight. That is, अगर किसी से किसी की लड़ाई हो गई तो उससे वहां पे हाथापाई नहीं करेगा, वो बोलेगा कि चल कॉकफाइट में मिलेंगे. And beating that person physically doesn't matter. Beating that person in a cockfight will be more humiliating for that person. Okay, so that is not just a game, but when seen in symbolic context, उस particular cultural context में, you will understand the underlying meanings of that cockfight. That will make sense only when seen with respect to the underlying meanings or the cultural context. So remember that statement, beliefs, however unintelligible, make sense only when seen in the cultural context. So this cockfight is not just a game. For an outsider who will go there, वो बोल देगा कि यहाँ पे लोग cockfight करते रहते हैं, primitive games है. Okay, missionaries ने उनको समझा कि cockfight पुराने टाइप के गेम है, वो वहाँ पे क्रिकेट ले आएंगे कि तू क्रिकेट खेल. Okay, ये मॉडर्न गेम है, या तू टेबल टेनिस खेल या लॉन टेनिस खेल. But this is not a game, but it's a manifestation of the social structure. It's a display of the social structure, display of the social rivalry. पूरी society की mirror image है वो. So people understand this symbol, or you will able to make sense of this symbol when you see this in the cultural context. So this is the thick description of cockfight. ठीक है? This is what he talks about. Clifford Geertz. ये clear है? Interpretive approach. Verstehen करना है. Hermeneutics and thick description. Step into the shoes of the actor. Interpret as per the context. Describe with the context. Okay, 3 steps. Verstehen, hermeneutics and thick description. आपको यही headings डालनी है. And then thick description के बाद में give Javanese funeral, Balinese cockfight. Done. Okay. Now let's talk about symbolic approach by Turner. Okay, sorry, एक चीज और रह जाती है. One is the idea of religion by Clifford Geertz. So he defines religion as a system of symbols which acts to establish powerful, pervasive, and long-lasting moods and motivation in men by creating a conception of general order of existence and clothing the conception with such an aura of factuality that moods and motivation seems uniquely realistic. Although this definition is too big, but once understood, it will become easy for you to remember. System of symbols which acts to establish powerful, pervasive and long-lasting moods and motivation in men by creating a conception of general order of existence and clothing the conception with such an aura of factuality that moods and motivation seems uniquely realistic. Okay, now let's understand this definition. System of symbols, okay? And that system of symbol, what does it do? It basically creates moods and motivation in men, and this moods and motivation, that is some kind of emotional feelings in men or humans, okay? And that emotional feeling or those sentiments are not temporary, they are powerful, pervasive and long lasting. Okay, these emotions are forever, for all the times to come. Okay, jab aap in the last resort also, this will be the emotion that will be present with you. Hey Bhagwan, aap kabhi bhi pareshan hoge, kabhi bhi stress mein hoge, whenever in the last resort you will resort to religion. Okay, so this symbol creates some kind of emotions, moods and motivation in men. How? By creating a conception of general order of existence. That means आपको बताया गया है कि दुनिया कैसे क्रिएट हुई, कौन कंट्रोल कर रहा है और आपकी पोजीशन क्या है, who basically is determining whatever is happening in your life. So creating a conception of general order of existence, that means you are here because of the God's will, you will be here because of the God's will, you will die, you will be born, you will be rebirth, or whatever is happening, that is because of the God's will. Okay, so creating a conception of general order of existence. Okay, what kind of or how you are created, what is your position in this earth, what is your role, your position, all that thing, or who created this earth, how to praise God or how to worship God. आप ये करोगे तो क्या होगा, क्या नहीं करोगे तो क्या होगा, इस दुनिया के बाद क्या है, इस दुनिया से पहले क्या था. Okay, all that stuff, heaven, hell and everything else, gods कहाँ रहते हैं, spirits, soul, all things, that is the general order of existence. How you see and perceive the world, that is by religion. And it's not only telling you how you should perceive this world, but also giving you narratives for it. मतलब सिर्फ ये नहीं बता दिया कि ऐसा है, पर आपको स्टोरी भी बताएगा, just to prove कि ऐसा सच में है. That is clothing those conception with an aura of actuality. That there is a God whom we call Krishna, there is a God whom we call Ram, there is a God or there is a messenger of God whom we call Christ or maybe Prophet Muhammad. Okay, clothing that conception with an aura of actuality. Story है. Okay, तो बताएंगे कि एक शेषनाग है जिसके सर पे हमारी धरती है. Okay, that is the story, that is the factuality. And when that factuality justifies that conception of existence, then that moods and motivation, that is those emotions, seems uniquely realistic. अगर आपको लगता है कि ये सच है, everything what I feel, what my religion says is completely correct. Okay, and that moods and motivation, I believe in God, I do feel that God exists and these are the evidences. Okay, so system of symbols which acts to establish powerful, pervasive and long-lasting moods and motivation by creating a conception of general order of existence. Okay, how things are created, where are we, what is the position that we have, okay, how earth is created and all that stuff. Creating a conception of general order of existence and clothing that conception with an aura of factuality, some kind of story, some kind of narratives, such that the moods and motivation seem uniquely realistic. Okay, that will make you feel that whatever emotions I have with respect to God, what I have with respect to things around me, it's completely correct. Okay, so this is how he defines religion, that there are certain symbols which basically are acting like our dictionary, how we see the world around us. Okay, because religion has told us Here he says that religion addresses three critical thresholds. First one is threshold of reason. Threshold of reason. That is, a lot of things happen around you for which you do not have any reason. Okay, a lot of things that basically, why me? Okay, so 10 of your friends, all of you worked equally hard. Okay, you joined same classes, same test series, getting almost same scores in every test. Okay, performed equally well in the mains, referred the same sources. सब कुछ same है, but 9 got selected and 1 was left out. Okay, और सब कुछ same कर रहे थे. Then the question is reason. Why me? Why not anybody else? Okay, if somebody is like a devout follower or worshipper, and उसके घर में कोई accident हो जाता है, and a very close one dies, then the question, सब कुछ तो किया, भक्ति सब की, why me? And this kind of reasons or this kind of answers are not easily available to us. And here such kind of curiosity will be addressed by religion. Okay, that reason which cannot be scientifically deduced, वो सारे reasons देगा आपको religion that will address your curiosity, thirst for answers. Okay, then threshold of suffering. That is, he says that it will not reduce your suffering but give you the strength to bear the suffering. आपकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं करेगा लेकिन आपको हिम्मत देगा उन प्रॉब्लम को फेस करने की. ओके, इट विल रिड्यूस द थ्रेशोल्ड ऑफ योर सफरिंग. ओके, कि भगवान है, उसे घर में देर है अंधेर नहीं है, तो दिस इज नॉट द परमानेंट फेज ऑफ योर लाइफ. वो इसके बाद कुछ अच्छा ही होगा, उसने आपके लिए कुछ बड़ा ही सोचा होगा. ओके, threshold of suffering does not solve your suffering but gives you the strength to bear it. Okay, and the third one, threshold of evil. So in this case, it's trying to explain why does evil thrive in this world. कि मैं तो इतना अच्छा कर रहा हूँ और मैंने किसी का बुरा भी नहीं किया तो भी मेरे साथ कुछ अच्छा नहीं हो रहा, मैं गरीबी में ही हूँ और 40-50 हजार की नौकरी के लिए स्ट्रगल कर रहा हूँ. उसने कम्युनल वायलेंसेस कराए और उसने लोगों को मरवाया और वो MP MLA बन के बैठा हुआ है. वो करप्शन करता है तब भी वो पैसा कमा रहा है, वो 80-80 साल तक जी रहा है. मेरे जानने वाले ऐसे थे जो बेसिकली इतने प्योर बाय हार्ट एंड प्योर बाय सोल थे एंड दे बेसिकली डाइड एट द एज ऑफ 40-50. मेहनत से काम करते थे, टैक्स भी भरते थे. Okay, so why does evil actually thrive in this world if the God exists? So this threshold of evil is also addressed by religion, saying that your karma is being counted. You will be answerable to that Almighty. जैसे कि हमारे रिलीजन में है चित्रगुप्त का आइडिया कि वो बही खाता बना के बैठा हुआ है, जब आप पहुंचोगे तो वो बताएगा कितने पाप किए, कितने पुण्य किए, उसके बेसिस पे आपकी पनिशमेंट डिसाइड होगी. तो गरम तेल में छाना जाएगा या क्या किया जाएगा, दैट विल बी थ्रेशोल्ड ऑफ इविल. ओके, सो दीज थ्री क्रिटिकल थ्रेशोल्ड्स विल बी सॉल्व्ड बाय द रिलीजन. थ्रेशोल्ड ऑफ रीजन, सफरिंग एंड इविल. ओके, नाउ symbolic approach by Turner. So what Turner says, actually Turner was influenced by Durkheim and Max Gluckman, who both were structural functionists, and that's why structural functionists हैं. तो आपको याद होना चाहिए क्या बात करेंगे वो सोशल स्टेबिलिटी की, कि हाउ द मेंटेनेंस ऑफ सोशल स्ट्रक्चर इज एंश्योर्ड. तो इन्होंने यही बात की दैट सोशल स्ट्रक्चर्स और सोशल सॉलिडारिटी is a function of symbolic logic that connects people. That means स्टेबिलिटी, सोशल स्टेबिलिटी या सोशल स्ट्रक्चर कैसे आएगा? हमारे सेम सिंबॉलिक मीनिंग्स हैं जिसकी वजह से सोशल स्टेबिलिटी आएगी. ओके, दैट इज सिंबॉलिक लॉजिक. आई हैव द सेम लॉजिक, यू हैव द सेम लॉजिक एंड दैट विल कनेक्ट अस. ओके, जिसकी वजह से हम लोग एक इवेंट को, एक एक्सपीरियंस को सेम तरीके से इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं, समझ रहे हैं. एंड दैट्स व्हाई देयर इज अ solidarity or social stability. So social solidarity is a function of system of symbolic logic that connects people. Now he says that Durkheim ने एक आइडिया दिया था कि humans are primordially, just don't write this, just listen, कि humans are primordially social in nature and that's why there is a tendency to live in groups. हमारी इनहेरेंट टेंडेंसी है ग्रुप में रहने की. ओके, हम ग्रुप के बाहर रह ही नहीं सकते, हम ग्रुप, हमारी टेंडेंसी है, तो दैट्स व्हाई वी ऑलवेज वांटेड ग्रुप. मतलब ये टेंडेंसी है, इनहेरेंट है वो, एंड दैट्स व्हाई देयर इज अ टेंडेंसी टू क्रिएट ग्रुप्स एंड आल्सो टू मेंटेन ग्रुप. ओके, जिसकी वजह से सोशल स्ट्रक्चर्स बनते हैं. बट हियर ही सेज कि दैट सोशल यूनिटी शुड नॉट बी टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड. देयर आर सर्टेन फोर्सेस एक्टिंग इन द सोसाइटी that will try to tear the society apart. हमेशा एक्ट कर रहे हैं वो फोर्सेस. ओके, that will try to bring down the social unity, and that's why in order to maintain the social unity, the society should reconstruct the social order on a regular basis. ठीक है, तो social unity should not be taken for granted. There are forces that are trying to tear the society apart. कुछ ना कुछ टेंशन हैं, कुछ ना कुछ कन्फ्लिक्ट्स हैं. ओके, एंड दैट्स व्हाई द सोसाइटी शुड रिकंस्ट्रक्ट द सोशल ऑर्डर रेगुलरली in order to diffuse that tension, in order to maintain the social unity. Okay, this is what he is saying. And इस केस में symbols, since they are the one that are connecting the people, they play a very important role. Okay, symbols, since they are shared, they play the most important role in maintaining social solidarity. We'll understand how basically he is talking about it with respect to the rituals. But ये clear है कि बोले कि social unity को for granted नहीं लेना है. There are forces that is trying to destroy the society, that is trying to tear down the society, and that's why we should reconstruct the social order on a regular basis so that the social unity is maintained. And in this reconstruction, symbols will play the most important role. आप चाहो तो ये लिख सकते हो. Social unity is basically problematic. Social unity is basically problematic and should not be taken for granted. Should not be taken for granted. Turner argued that people are essentially forced to repeatedly construct social life against those forces in the natural world that constantly threaten to destroy it. Symbols are primary instrument. Symbols are primary instrument to achieve the reproduction of social order. So he defines symbols. आपको ये दोनों की डेफिनेशन याद होनी चाहिए. Reads की definition of symbol, system of inherited conception through which people communicate, perpetuate and develop attitude and knowledge towards life. Now he defines symbols as are operators which by their arrangement produce social transformation which ties an individual to norms of society, help in changing status and aid in resolution of conflict. So these symbols, they will tie individual to the norms of the society, they will help in changing the status of the individual and help in resolution of conflict. Okay, and you will understand this, how this basically will bring stability in the society in few minutes. Just bear with me. So just remember this, symbols are operators which will tie an individual to the norms of society, जिसकी वजह से society में stability आएगी. Help in changing the status, that also will bring stability, because suppose if I am statusless in a society, suppose if I am a person with no status, that means no rules are applicable on me. कोई status नहीं है तो कोई rule भी नहीं है. No expected behavior. I can behave as per my whims and fancies, and that can bring chaos in the society. So when a person changes the status from one status to another, in that meantime he can bring chaos, क्योंकि उसके पास कोई status नहीं है. So that's why such transition should happen very smoothly. उसके लिए symbols are there. Okay, so help in changing the status of the individual, then resolution of conflict. How these symbols? So just few minutes. So here he talks about centrality of rituals in maintaining social order. How rituals are important in maintaining social order. Ritual as a symbol. So ritual is a symbol, and how this ritual basically maintain the social order in the society. So he takes the idea of Van Gennep, rite of passage. Okay. So rite of passage आप लोगों को पता है, that is those rituals which mark the change of the status of an individual. So there are 4 types of rite of passage: naming, initiation, marriage and funeral. Okay. So इसमें basically marriage से पहले आप you are unmarried person, bachelor, marriage के बाद आप शादीशुदा हो, but during the marriage there is, so in this rite of passage Gennep talks about 3 stages. First one is separation, second is transition, and the third is reintegration. Okay, separation, transition and reintegration. We have already, well, you must have definitely read it somewhere. So यहाँ पे he redefines these 3 stages as preliminal, liminal, or liminality, and post-liminal stages. He focuses on this stage, that is liminal stage. He says that in this liminal stage, this is anti-structure. Anti-structure means person has lost his previous status and has not yet attained the new status. Are you getting this? Anti-structure does not mean structure के against, but anti-structure means part of no structure. Structure का मतलब क्या है? when one person is arranged with respect to other. That is the structure. Okay, and in this liminal phase, the person is not a part of any structure. So this is an anti-structure phase. So individual has lost his or her previous identity or status and not yet achieved new state. Okay, that's why the word liminal or derived from the word limbo. So this is a state of no status and hence no rules are applicable on the individual. क्योंकि ना आप पुराने स्टेटस के रूल्स के साथ बाइंड हो, ना आपको कोई नया स्टेटस मिला है. So no rules are applicable on the individual. Okay, this is why the word anti-structure. Okay, so this is the liminal phase. Now he says that, ये लिख लिया आप लोगों ने. He says that all a group, when a group of individuals who face or who experience rite of passage together. अब देखो, अगर आप राइट ऑफ पैसेज, थोड़ा सा डिटेल है, अगर आप राइट ऑफ पैसेज को फेस कर रहे हो तो आप लिमिनल फेज में आपके ऊपर कोई भी रूल्स एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, ना पुराने वाले ना नए वाले, क्योंकि ना आपके पास पुराना स्टेटस है ना नया स्टेटस मिला है. सो आप किसी भी तरीके से एक्ट कर सकते हो जिससे सोसाइटी में केओस आ सकता है. ओके, दैट लिमिनल फेज कैन ब्रिंग केओस और सम काइंड ऑफ डिस्टेबिलिटी इन द सोसाइटी. अब इसलिए बोलते हैं कि जब लोग राइट ऑफ पैसेज एक साथ एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं, so their previous identities or previous hierarchies are gone and they have a shared experience, and that shared experience brings a sense of solidarity in them. In the phase of anti-structure, due to shared experiences, there is a solidarity between the people who experience rite of passage together, and that solidarity is called as communitas. ठीक है, तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल जैसे लड़का लड़की है, वो शादी कर रहे हैं. अब शादी से पहले उनके पास बैचलर लाइफ थी, शादी के बाद दे विल बी लिविंग लाइक हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ. बट सिंस दे आर एक्सपीरियंसिंग दैट राइट ऑफ पैसेज टुगेदर, ओके, दैट ब्रिंग्स solidarity in them. Shared experience brings solidarity in them. That is what is called as communitas. Okay, so और मे बी सपोज करो, बेस्ट तरीका ये है, पूरी इंडिया में कम्युनल टेंशन. ओके, हिंदू मुसलमान. अब इंडिया का मैच है वर्ल्ड कप फाइनल विद पाकिस्तान. ओके, लास्ट ओवर सचिन क्रीज पे बैटिंग कर रहा है, एक ओवर में 13-14 रन चाहिए. ओके, एवरीबडी इज स्टेयरिंग ऑन द स्क्रीन. लास्ट ओवर अभी होने वाला है, ब्रेक है, एंड एवरीबडी इज वेरी मच फीलिंग वेरी मच एंजाइटी. हर कोई अपने भगवान से पूजा कर रहा है, हर कोई, चाहे वो हिंदू हो, चाहे वो सिख हो, चाहे वो मुस्लिम हो, चाहे वो क्रिश्चियन हो. एवरीबडी इज प्रेइंग विद देयर रिस्पेक्टिव गॉड इन देयर ओन वे, and everybody is shouting one name, Sachin, Sachin. Okay, everybody is experiencing the same phenomena, same feeling together. Okay, now Sachin आता है क्रीज पे, 2 छक्के मारता है, मैच जीत जाता है. Everybody celebrates the victory of India and India lifting the World Cup. Okay, now this shared experience, that shared liminality has created a solidarity among the people. This is liminality, this is the communitas, shared experiences. Okay, and that shared experiences will create a solidarity, and this will, it's, remember, reconstruction of the social order. There are forces that are trying to destroy the society, that are trying to tear the society apart, and the society should reconstruct, the people are forced to reconstruct the social order regularly. And this social order regularly will be reconstructed when the people will experience the liminal phase together, and they will develop a feeling of intense solidarity that is called as communitas. और ये reconstruction of social order happens on everyday basis. Why are we made to stand in the assembly line and sing the national anthem? रोज सुबह स्कूल में, because we are experiencing the liminal phase together, we are experiencing the communitas. Okay, बार बार वो रिचुअल कर रहे हैं, और बार बार वो रिचुअल कर रहे हैं, तो that's why a feeling of communitas, a feeling of solidarity is created, and that is how the social order will be reconstructed. Are you getting this idea? So this liminal phase, it's anti-structure, but is for all those who experience or face rite of passage together or liminal phase together, develop a sense of intense solidarity. And this is called as communitas. Okay, so this is how the social order will be reconstructed. Make sense? So in this context, he says that a very interesting statement, जो आपके उस क्वेश्चन के लिए भी important है, religion and politics, that the lowest caste and the classes in any stratified society exhibit greatest immediacy and involuntariness of behavior. Greatest immediacy and involuntary, मतलब easy to mobilize, and they display homogeneity. Lowest class, lowest caste, they display more homogeneity. Involuntariness और immediacy means बहुत easily आप उनको persuade कर सकते हो, बहुत easily mobilize कर सकते हो, and involuntary मतलब they can easily be directed, they can easily be moved. उनमें solidarity बहुत high होती है. That's why whenever a leader wants to mobilize them, the first thing what he will do is shed off all the visible differences between him and that class. So all the external marks of difference will be first shed off, or वो leader will not bear any particular mark that will actually show the hierarchical relationship between that person and the lowest or lowest class or caste. तो इसी वजह से इलेक्शन टाइम में जो दलित हैं उनके घर पे खाना खाया जाता है. ओके, उनकी भाषा में बात की जाएगी. ओके, और केजरीवाल तो बेसिकली उनके जैसा मफलर और फटी पैंट पहन के, पेन इंक वाला शर्ट पहन के जाएगा. ओके, तो और चप्पल पहन के जाएगा. That is shedding off all the external visible marks, and this is what is happening. रैली में क्या हो रहा है? Communitas, they all are experiencing the liminal phase together, and that's why a feeling of intense solidarity, and hence एक तरफा वोट गिरता है. Okay, because of involuntariness of the behavior. And leader क्या करेगा? External differences को shed off करना है. Okay, so that they are experiencing the same feeling together, and development of intense community spirit, intense solidarity called as communitas brings unity. अब गांधी ने इसीलिए क्या किया? Gandhi knew this, I guess, or maybe Gandhi had read Turner, and that's why when he wanted to mobilize people, what he did, he shed off all the difference. लोग बोल रहे थे कि यार आजादी वजादी के क्या कर रहे हैं, खाने को है नहीं. एक आदमी आया जो आधा नंगा था, फकीर की तरह रहता. हाँ, ये तो हमारे जैसा है. उनको समझ ही नहीं आ रहा था कि इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग पीपल वो कभी मोबिलाइज नहीं कर पाते उन लोगों को जो बेसिकली जिनके पास खाने को नहीं था. ओके, उनकी बेसिक कंसर्न ये थी कि आज की रोटी कहां से आएगी. एंड देन केम ए मैन हु शेड ऑफ ऑल द एक्सटर्नल विजिबल डिफरेंसेस एंड made people to feel a feeling of intense community spirit, communitas, and that's why he was able to mobilize the whole India against the Britishers. Are you getting this idea? So this is when they experience liminal phase together, they will develop an intense community spirit, and this is called as communitas. This was the question that was asked, I think, year or 2 years back. Okay, what is communitas? So all the individuals who experience rite of passage together, they basically, since they are, उनके सारे differences खत्म हो जाएंगे, पुराने differences shed off हो गए, नए identity अभी मिली नहीं है, so they will develop a feeling of intense community spirit that is called as communitas. And this solidarity actually is responsible for what we can say stability in the society. Okay, stability. So आप ये मैच के रूप में देख लो, ये communal tension थी, लेकिन उस मैच के एक ओवर में every earlier differences were shed off and the new unity was yet to be achieved. But since everybody was feeling the same emotion watching that match, it was just like a rite of passage for the entire India. तो अगर चाहे वो मैच हारते, चाहे वो मैच जीत भी जाते, still they would have experienced solidarity because the feeling would have been same. तो सबके, अगर मैच हारते तो सबके सब पुतला फूकते, और मैच जीत गए तो everybody was celebrating. Okay, but that intense community spirit was developed because of the same experiences in that last over. Okay, that is communitas. Okay, and this is the reconstruction of social order. तो हम हर साल एक त्योहार को क्यों मनाते हैं? We are reconstructing that social order. Okay, हम हर साल गृह शांति का पाठ क्यों कराते हैं? We are reconstructing the social order. Okay, it's not that कि एक बार करा लिया तो जिंदगी भर शांति रहेगी. He's saying that the social solidarity should not be taken for granted. There are forces that are trying to tear the society apart, and hence every individual is forced to reconstruct that social order. And while reconstructing, he has taken the example of rite of passage. When you reconstruct the social order, all the individuals will face the same experiences, and that same experience will create what is called as communitas, that will bring stability, order in the society. This is the idea that Turner gave. Okay, so here, आप ये definition याद रखना, that symbols are operators which by their arrangement produce social transformation that ties an individual to norms of society. That is, आप एक national anthem क्या है? It's a symbol. So every day you stand in the assembly line and sing this national anthem, tying to the norms of society. This is how an individual, or या pledge लेते हैं, India is my country, all Indians are so and so. Okay, so basically this is tying an individual to the norms of the society, help in changing the status. Marriage. So since husband and wife or the couple undergoing that ritual, not just the couple, but the entire family of both the couple, okay, bride and groom, they experience the process together, and that brings solidarity in them. That brings a feeling of unity कि that अब हम रिश्तेदार हो गए or something like that. Okay, that is the solidarity, that because they are experiencing that whole process together. Okay, help in changing the status and aid in resolution of conflict. The example that I gave you, communal tension है. Okay, so cricket is not just a game, but it's a symbol that decides the unity and solidarity of Indian society. Okay, एक political rally क्या है? Basically, it's like to develop communitas, mobilize कराओ. तो कोई भी leader है वो symbols को use कर रहा है to create a feeling of communitas, to create a feeling of intense solidarity. समझ में आ रही है? Okay. So he basically studied Ndembu society. अच्छा, ये मतलब बेसिकली पॉलिटिक्स से रिलेटेड है, आप चाहे साइड में कहीं लिखिएगा. हाँ, immediacy. हाँ, this right. Lowest caste and classes in a stratified society. Lowest caste and classes in a stratified society exhibit greatest immediacy and involuntariness of behavior. Greatest immediacy and involuntariness of behavior. Those who would maximize communitas, that is political leaders, often begin by minimizing or even eliminating outward signs of rank. ठीक है, मतलब वो इसको बहुत बहुत ज्यादा कोर तरीके से बताया कि देखो, जो जैसे दिल्ली है, तो दिल्ली में एक कॉलोनी के लोग बहुत हेट्रोजीनियस है। ओके, हर किसी की अपनी अपनी लाइफ है, भले सब मिडिल क्लास के हैं, सेम स्टेटस के हैं, लेकिन अपने अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, उनकी एक्सपीरियंस बहुत डिफरेंट है। तो हो सकता है कि आज मैं मेरे पास कार है, मैं आया और मेरे को पुलिस वाले ने रोक लिया और बेसिकली उसने मेरे से चालान काट लिया, और वो बेसिकली चालान काट रहा है और मेरे से घूस ले रहा है और मेरी प्रॉब्लम को समझ नहीं रहा है। ओके, आई वुड से दैट कि मोदी गवर्नमेंट के टाइम पे या केजरीवाल गवर्नमेंट के टाइम पे ऐसी प्रॉब्लम है। अगला बंदा ये है कि उसको फायदा हो रहा है कि बिजली फ्री मिल रही है, उसका बजट थोड़ा सा कम पड़ा था, अब उसको 4-5 हजार रुपए पर मंथ का फायदा हो गया, उसने उसके लिए केजरीवाल। तो हम सबके एक्सपीरियंस बहुत अलग है। या वो मान लो किसी के घर पे कोई बच्चा है, वो बीमार हो गया, अब वो बच्चा बीमार हो गया, उसके ट्रीटमेंट कॉस्ट बहुत ज्यादा होगी, तो इस वजह से वो जब गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल में गया तो वहां पे फ्री इलाज हो गया, तो उसने बोला केजरीवाल की जय। ओके, और ऐसे बहुत सारे अलग अलग एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, दैट्स व्हाई देयर इज नॉट involuntariness of behavior or not a homogeneity that will be seen in urban areas. But in case of lowest caste, उनकी सबकी एक ही दिक्कत कि बेसिक सर्वाइवल कहां से होगा। लोएस्ट क्लास, उनकी सबकी एक दिक्कत बेसिक सर्वाइवल की, कि आज की रोटी कहां से आई, और उस केस में उनका वोट एक तरफा गिरेगा, होमोजेनिटी है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई इट्स इजी टू मोबिलाइज। कैसे? बाय एलिमिनेटिंग द आउटवर्ड साइंस ऑफ रैंक। उनके जैसे दिखो, उनकी जैसी बात करो, उनकी भाषा में बोलो, उनके साथ खाना खा लो, ओके, एंड दैट विल क्रिएट अ फीलिंग ऑफ कम्युनिटास, इजीली मोबिलाइज, पूरे रैली में भर जाते हैं। हम नहीं जाते किसी रैली में, ना कभी जाएंगे, बिकॉज हमारे नीड्स अलग अलग हैं। वी वोंट क्लैप इफ मोदी गवर्नमेंट अनाउंसेस 5 kg ऑफ राशन फ्री फॉर एवरी हाउस, विल वी? नो, इसलिए हम कभी रैली में जाएंगे नहीं। मोदी गवर्नमेंट ने अगर 5 लाख का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस दे भी दिया तो वी वोंट क्लैप, बिकॉज वो शायद हमारा कंसर्न है भी नहीं। बट लोवेस्ट कास्ट, लोवेस्ट क्लास, सबका कंसर्न वो है बेसिक सर्वाइवल। एंड देन अगर आप एक्सटर्नल साइंस एलिमिनेट कर दो, easy to mobilize and a feeling of communitas mobilization. Okay, now coming back in Dembu society, what so यहाँ पे basically he talks about two things. First one is the role of puberty ritual. Okay, so here in this case what actually happens, that this Endembu society has a tree called as Mudi tree. ठीक है, तो दिस ट्री बेसिकली, अब ये ड्रॉ मत कर देना वहां पे यार, ठीक है, मुदी ट्री है जिसका लेटेक्स, सॉरी, जिसका जो आउटर बार का हटाओगे तो इट बेसिकली सिक्रीट सम व्हाइट कलर्ड मिल्क लेटेक्स, ओके, so white colored fluid. Now that's why he constantly refers to this as a milk tree. Now this is considered to be a central symbol or a core symbol among the dominant symbol among the Mudi Endembu society. Now when the puberty ritual has to be conducted, in that case the girl who has or who is about to attain puberty will be tightly wrapped in the blanket and will be placed at the foot of the Mudi tree. Okay, so girl tightly wrapped in the blanket and placed at muddy tree, at foot of muddy tree sapling. ठीक है, अब ये प्यूबर्टी रिचुअल ऐसे नहीं होता कि एक लड़की का या दो लड़की का. Whenever a group of girls, maybe in a group of 10, 15, 20, when they are about to attain puberty in an age bracket of say 1 or 2 years, there will be a mass puberty ritual that will be organized. Okay, in which the girls will be tightly wrapped at with the blanket and will be placed at the foot of the muddy tree. Now, he says that this muddy tree actually means a lot of things to this Ndembu people. So, girl plays at the foot of muddy tree. Actually, this muddy tree and the white latex represents women's breast and the milk coming out of it. Okay. It also represents the child swallowing instructions from the mother. That is, the girl is a child and muddy tree as the mother, and this latex is the instruction that she is swallowing from the mother. Okay, so it represents mother and child relation as well. Okay, तो ये क्या बता रहा है? बोल रहे कि when these girls along with other women they are experiencing this puberty ritual, what is happening? They basically are facing the liminal phase together. Okay, and that develops a feeling of communitas. Moreover, this ritual actually ties them to the norm of society, prepares the girl for marriage and motherhood. Prepares the girl for marriage and motherhood. Okay, and ties the girl. अब साथ साथ it's like creating a solidarity. That means जो लड़कियां एक साथ puberty ritual को face कर रही हैं, they are experiencing the same phenomena together. There will be a solidarity कि हम we will support each other. We are entering into the age of fertility at the same time. Plus the women who are basically monitoring those rituals, they basically are also getting connected. Why? Because they have experience, means, but still they can recall कि हाँ हमने भी वो चीज की थी. They are also reminded of the values or the expected roles that they are supposed to perform. That is reconstruction of the social order. Okay, women experiencing the same value system, same kind of experiences together. Reconstruction of the social order, again getting tied to the norms of the society. Okay, तो हम हर साल जब घर में कोई टेंशन है तो वहां पे रामचरितमानस का पाठ करा रहे. So that is, we are basically reminded how a brother is expected to behave with other brother, how if son is supposed to behave with her father, how a father is supposed to perform his duty, how a mother is expected to love or to care for their children. Okay, that Ramcharitmanas ka part basically is like a rite of passage for all of us. In that case, all the family members are experiencing the liminal phase together and hence will develop solidarity and they are tied to the norms of the society. मान लो उसके बाद भले ही परिवार अलग हो जाए, doesn't matter, but still everybody will be reminded. मतलब वो अपने अपने परिवार में भी रामचरितमानस का पाठ कराएंगे. क्यों? Because they want their family to be stable. Are you getting this idea? So this shared experience will bring a sense of solidarity called as communitas. Okay, and symbols, they will basically tie the individual to the norms of society, aid in resolution of conflict and change the status of the individual. So this is Ndembu. यहाँ पे this muddy tree is the dominant symbol and यहाँ पे कैसे helping in changing the status of the individual. From a girl, the status will change to a woman. Okay, that is the change of status. Plus, they are tied to the norms, how a woman is supposed to behave. Okay, prepared for motherhood and marriage. Okay. Next, इसी में the idea of social drama. So he wrote an article named, अच्छा ये चीज in the book The Forest of Symbols. This is the name of the book, Forest of Symbols. जिसमें ये आर्टिकल था, मतलब जिसमें ये केस स्टडी है. Now this social drama in an article named as She's-Man Continuity in an African Society. She's-Man Continuity in an African Society. Okay. So what does it say? So he basically says that the social drama क्या है? Says that social drama, मतलब again re-emphasizing on the fact that social unity should not be taken for granted. There are constant forces that are trying to tear the society apart. So he says social drama is nothing but a recurrent unit or conflict in social life. मतलब कुछ ना कुछ प्रॉब्लम सोसाइटी में आती रहेंगी, कुछ ना कुछ टेंशन will come. There are certain forces that are constantly trying to tear the society apart. Recurrent conflict in the social life that is happening once and for all. Okay, that is what he calls as the social drama. Now, he refers to 4 stages. Sorry. 4 stages of social drama. First one is breach. That is some violation of the norm. Okay, some particular norm is violated, some tension is created in the society. Okay, then the second stage is crisis. So when the breach is increased or it rises up to a certain level, that is the stage of crisis, increase of tension. And now the society or the elders will come up with some redressal measures, maybe some mediation, कुछ समझौता कराएंगे, compromise कराएंगे, or maybe they might come up with some kind of ritual mechanisms. Okay, तो जब भी कोई टेंशन होगी तो कुछ बड़े बूढ़े लोग basically they will try to resolve the conflict, redressal mechanism, mediation, or maybe some kind of ritual practices. And finally, schism or reintegration. schism मतलब अगर दो लोग जिनके बीच में समझौता कराना था वो मान गए तो reintegrate हो गए या फिर वो अलग अलग हो जाएंगे. schism will be there, they will be parting their ways. Okay, but here he says that this redressal measures is not to make sure कि वो दोनों साथ रहें या ना रहें, is to make sure that the overall social structure remains stable. Even if the person leaves, the structure should remain. Okay, that's not for the 2 individuals, but for the people or for the structures. तो आपकी फैमिली है, कोई बेसिकली टेंशन क्रिएट कर रहा है, मान लो डिवोर्स होना है, हस्बैंड वाइफ में टेंशन है. ओके, गॉड फॉरबिड ऐसा कुछ हो, बट if there is a tension between husband and wife, okay, people will try to resolve the conflict. They will mediate between them, or they will try to do some kind of ग्रह शांति पाठ कराएंगे, कुछ कराएंगे, वो बोलेंगे यहाँ घूम के आओ, मंदिर होके आओ, ये सब करके आओ. Every mechanism will be taken as in order to redress, but end में क्या होगा? Either you might resolve the conflict and live together, or you might part your ways. But in both the instances, what is the focus? What is the emphasis? That everybody should live like a family. Even if the wife goes away, you will still be a part of the larger family. You will again marry a woman, okay, and again try to live as a part of the larger family structure. Okay, so this is what he's trying to say. So that is a recognition that this issue cannot be resolved. Let the person go away, but the structure should remain. Okay, so यहाँ पे वो बोल रहे हैं कि in this Endembu society, it's a matrilineal and virilocal society. Matrilineal means mothers से decent trace करते हैं, and virilocal is very similar to patrilocal society. So in this matrilineal and virilocality actually creates a tension. Fragility of marriage is there. Okay, we have studied this in matrilineal puzzle. उस वाले discussion में I have talked about this. But matrilineal and virilocality creates a tension. क्या tension है वहाँ पे, और marriage में बहुत ज़्यादा fragility है, and that is why a lot of so जब यहाँ पे marital relationship families हमेशा stress में रहती हैं, in that case Moody tree acts as the dominant symbol. Moody tree acts as a dominant symbol. Okay, and this Moody tree basically prevents the fission of village. Okay, so it prevents the formation of larger group than village, and it will make sure that the village is united. Okay, so वो Moody tree को इस तरीके से देखते हैं जैसे कि हम अपने national flag को देखते हैं. तो Moody tree is just like the national flag for the Endembus. तो जैसे हम अपने देश के फ्लैग के सामने भी डेवलप सम काइंड ऑफ इमोशनल फीलिंग कि देश को यूनाइट करना है, देश के लिए कुर्बानी भी दे सकते हैं, सैक्रिफाइस भी कर सकते हैं. So the same way that Moody tree generates the same kind of emotion. So it will either resolve the conflict, or even if it does not, even if the people part ways, it will make sure that the person is stuck to the existing social order. Are you getting this? तो अब चाहो तो इसकी एक समरी लिख लो. Just write this. Turner plotted how conflict began. Turner plotted how conflict began with a breach of rule. Conflict began with a breach of rule and escalates to the level of crisis. And escalates to the level of crisis. Some process of adjustment would then occur ranging from informal mediation to elaborate rituals. It results either in healing the breach. Or public recognition of its irremediable character. That means it cannot be sorted out. Public recognition of its irremediable character. Moody tree. Next point. Moody tree stands for unity and continuity of Endembu society. Moody tree stands for unity and continuity of Endembu society, and prevents group formation larger than village. ठीक है, तो विलेज यूनिटी को मेंटेन करेगा, ठीक है वाइफ जाना चाहती है, डिवोर्स लेना चाहती है तो कोई बात नहीं, शी गोज, but I'll stay in the village, I'll marry somebody else. Again the structure will go on. Reconstruction of the social order and against the forces that are trying to destroy the social unit. Okay, this is how he has defined symbols. Okay, operators in social processes जिसका काम है social stability maintain करना. Okay, because of the shared logic. So social solidarity is the system of symbolic logic that connects people, that you have to remember. Okay, due to this shared logic, stability will be maintained in the society. This is the idea of Turner. Now, David Snyder. Again, he also defines culture as a system of symbols. And he defines symbols as something which stands for something else. Symbols are something which stands for something else. What does this mean? He means that symbols have arbitrary meaning. Okay, arbitrary means कि there is no universal meaning of a symbol. हर कल्चर में वो मीनिंग अलग होगी. So वो आपको हर कल्चर में आपको देखना पड़ेगा. Rather than कि आपने कुछ मीन किया, doesn't mean that meaning is universal. Okay, for example, a factory. For me, it's a symbol of prosperity. For the environmentalists, it's a symbol of environmental pollution. Okay, it's a symbol of degradation of nature. मेरे लिए prosperity है, मेरे लिए jobs हैं, मेरे लिए economic means है, मेरे लिए बहुत सारे उसकी meanings हैं. बाकी लोगों के लिए वो हो सकता है degradation of nature represent कर रहा हो. So there is a very arbitrary meaning that is attached to every symbol, and that arbitrary meaning can be understood only when seen from the cultural context. That is what it means. Symbol is something that stands for something else. Okay, arbitrary meaning to symbols. Now he says that symbols in a society or a culture act as an autonomous system. Symbol acts as autonomous system. Autonomous means independent system की तरह काम करते हैं. Okay, and the aim of the anthropologist is not to decode symbols. सारे symbols को decode करना अपना काम नहीं है. But there are certain symbols which are central part of orientation. There are certain symbols which are central part of orientation around which everything else matters. There are certain symbols जो बहुत core symbols हैं, जिसको he calls as core symbols. That is the center of all the meanings. Okay, that is the central part around which everything else depends. So that core symbol has to be identified and the meaning has to be understood. Okay, there are certain symbols which are central part of the orientation around which everything else depends, and this is called as the core symbol. Okay, so we need to find out the core symbols and how societies attach meaning to it. What kind of meaning is attached to those core symbols? For example, capitalism. अब capitalist society है, तो core symbol क्या है? Wealth, money, profit, right? अब ये core symbol आपको समझ में आ गया ना? तो आप capitalist behavior को हर तरीके से समझ सकते हो, because it is for that money, profit, well-being और luxury. तो शादी में आपको वही दिखेगा, रिलीजन में भी वही दिखेगा, पॉलिटिक्स में भी वही दिखेगा, ओके, फैमिली में भी वही दिखेगा, फ्रेंडशिप में भी वही दिखेगा, कॉलेज में भी वही दिखेगा. Okay, ultimately everybody is working as per the core symbol: money, profit, luxury, okay, surplus. So this is the core symbol. Or say the core symbol is the nationalism. ऐसे जापान में वहाँ पे पैसा नहीं है core symbol. Nationalism is the core. So वहाँ पे everybody is working for Japanese identity. Okay, that ideal Japanese identity or how a youth is supposed to be. अपने देश के लिए, अपनी फैमिली के लिए, दूसरे लोगों के लिए. जब कभी बाहर जाएंगे तो वो मेक श्योर करेंगे कि हमारे देश की आइडेंटिटी कभी खराब ना हो. पूरा का पूरा स्टेडियम क्लीन करके आएंगे जब फुटबॉल देखने जाएंगे, बिकॉज देयर आइडेंटिटी मैटर्स अ लॉट. ओके, स्कूल साफ करेंगे, हम्बल वी टर्म्स में बात करेंगे. ओके, so core symbol has to be understood, and this is the central part of orientation around which everything else depends. So their family, their marriage, their kinship, their polity, their economy, their scientific innovations, their college, their every part of their life is around the core symbol. Okay, that we have to understand, and once you have understood core symbol, you will be able to understand every aspect of their culture. सीधा सीधा फंडा है. By using this idea, he wrote an article, A Critique of Study of Kinship, in which he criticized the studies of kinship that was done by the previous scholars, saying that these studies are Eurocentric in nature. Earlier studies of kinship as Eurocentric in nature, because they all understood kinship through biology or blood, which is the core symbol of European society or American society. बोला कि blood relation या biological relation, that is the core symbol of European society. तो आपने जहां जहां पे गए वहां पे आपने उसी हिसाब से kinship study कर डाली, लेकिन हर जगह core symbol blood नहीं है, core symbol might be different. So he says that American kinship studies basically recognizes two types of kin. One is by or is based on two orders. One is order of nature, that is blood relation, right? And second is order of law, that is relationship by marriage. Order of nature, that is किसी को आपने पैदा किया है, जेनेसिस, ओके, that is blood relation. And the order of law, that is by marriage. Now this creates three categories of kin in American society, that is three categories of kin. First, kin by nature alone. Kin by nature alone मतलब ब्लड रिलेशन बिना शादी के, तो illegitimate children, kin by nature alone, blood relation without marriage. और second, kin by law alone, that means marriage है, बच्चा है लेकिन blood relation नहीं है, adoption, okay. And kin by nature and law both, that means एक औरत और one man and woman get married, they give birth to a child, kin by nature and law both, okay. So this third category is considered to be the most superior form of kin relation, that is by nature and law both, most superior form of kin relation. By nature illegitimate, by law adopted, nature and law both the most superior. So that means biological basis of kinship है. लेकिन ऐसा हर सोसाइटी में नहीं होता. Not every society has blood as the core symbol, but there is order of doing. Instead of order of being, that is by blood, there is order of doing. What one does for another creates the relation. Okay, what one does for another creates the relation. What does this mean? That my action towards you will decide my relation with you. So he talks about Yap society, okay, in which pregnancy is considered to be by a ghost. Ghost is responsible for pregnancy, and a father is a one who performs certain duty towards a son. Not the one who is a biological father. Biological father का concept ही नहीं है वहाँ पे. But father is one who performs certain duty towards the son, and the son is supposed to behave in a particular manner towards the father. So it's the order of doing, not the blood relation, that is more important. And this is also demonstrated, you can write this, this is demonstrated in their power to terminate the relation if one fails. Demonstrated in their power to terminate the relation in which one fails. तो अगर फादर ने कुछ प्रॉमिस किया, अगर उसने नहीं दिया वो प्रॉमिस नहीं फुलफिल किया, सही मान लो बच्चे को 10th पास करने का उसने प्रॉमिस दिया कि तेरे को PS4 दिलाऊंगा, Xbox दिलाऊंगा, और अगर उसने नहीं दिया तो कल से वो बगल वाले को फादर बोलने लग जाएगा, बिकॉज he might get him the PS4. Okay, that is the order of doing. So this is the action that will decide the relation, not the blood relation. Blood इतना important नहीं है. तो core symbol is action. This was also we have studied in terms of Janet Caston. Okay, theory of relatedness. So not necessarily blood, जो हम लोगों ने पेपर 1 की डिस्कशन में theory of relatedness जेनेट कास्टन की बात की थी, वो भी इसी आइडिया पे. Okay, it's an extension of Snyder's idea, which she conducted an study on Malayan society. Okay, so this is all about David Snyder, and this is all about symbolic interpretive. Let's see the criticism. So first criticism is in this school that culture as a text approach. सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि they are seeing culture as a text, and the text has to be explained with the context, right? So culture as a text approach में दो चीजें missing है. One, they do not talk about how the text was created. ये बना कैसे? Okay, and second, significance of its development in the society. First, how this text was created and how significant or how functional it is. Significance of its development in society. इस society के लिए कितना functional है? Is it dysfunctional? Is it completely functional? Okay. Second, objectivity of the researcher is under question mark. Okay, क्योंकि वो नेटिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू की बात करेगा, अब वहां पे वो अपना इमोशनल एंगल लगाएगा, उसके इमोशनल एंगल्स को लगाएगा. वहां पे कल्चर को इंटरप्रेट करने की बजाय बेसिकली कल्चर के रेलेवेंस को समझाने की बजाय कि अब वो लोग ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हैं, बाय यूजिंग सम काइंड ऑफ एथिक अप्रोच, साइंटिफिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग, मटेरियल आइडियाज को देखना. ही इज बेसिकली sacrificing his objectivity for the subjective experiences of the people. Okay, so sacrificing the objectivity for the subjective experiences, and this is the criticism that was given by the materialist also, that they are not concerned about the material conditions which shape up the culture. Subjective experience, emotional experiences की ज़्यादा बात कर रहे हैं, but material conditions which actually interact with the culture, which is responsible for shaping of the culture, उसके बारे में कोई बात ही नहीं करेंगे. Okay, then the problem of validation. उन्होंने मान लो I went to some person, some culture, I spoke something about it. Okay, कि उनका वो अपनी सोसाइटी को उसके थ्रू देख रहे हैं, वो उनकी सोसाइटी को रिप्रेजेंट करता है. हाउ विल यू वैलिडेट, हाउ विल यू रिजेक्ट और एक्सेप्ट दिस थ्योरी? या तो आप उसको एक्सेप्ट कर लो, या फिर अगर आपको उसको क्रॉस चेक करने के लिए वहां जाना पड़ेगा, कि जाएंगे देख के आएंगे और फिर बताएंगे. तो वैलिडेशन इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट. ओके, so problem in validation of the research. Then one major problem is what is called as crisis of representation. Crisis of representation. That means it's very difficult to generalize the belief of one culture together. You cannot generalize it. हर बंदे की मीनिंग अलग होगी, तो उसको जनरलाइज जब आप करोगे तो what usually happens, you would take up only those meanings which are represented by the dominant section. So Christ and the marginal voices will be silenced, will not be heard. So whenever you trying to generalize the meaning of one culture, तो अब जैसे मान लो एक मंदिर है एक गांव में, ठीक है, वो मंदिर मतलब बहुत लोग मानते हैं, बहुत ज्यादा. तो वहां के जो डोमिनेंट कास्ट हैं वो लोग उस मंदिर को बहुत मानते हैं, उसके मतलब मानते हैं कि वहां पे जो भी मन्नत मानी जाए पूरी हो जाएगी. अब आप जा रहे हो, अब आप उस मंदिर को बेसिकली थिक डिस्क्रिप्शन कर रहे हो. आपने बताया कि लोग का एक्सपीरियंस ऐसा है, ये वगैरह वगैरह जो भी वो सोचते हैं उसके बारे में, इमोशनल सब्जेक्टिव. लेकिन उस गांव में कुछ ऐसे लोग भी हैं जो आउटस्कर्ट्स पे रहते हैं, जिन्हें उस मंदिर में जाने की परमिशन नहीं है. द सेम टेम्पल which is a symbol of utmost respect and a sacred place for the dominant caste is a symbol for caste atrocities for the lower caste people. But that meaning nobody will be talking about it. That is the crisis of representation. When you generalize the meaning of the symbols for one culture, what you are doing, you will be picking up only the dominant view and the marginal voices will be silenced. Okay, तो इस वजह से जनरलाइज नहीं कर सकते. There will be a crisis of representation, and an extension of this is the feminist critique. So specifically against Geats, saying that कि जैसे कॉकफाइट बताया तो उसने ऐसा बताया कि मेल का ही रोल है, फीमेल का कोई रोल ही नहीं है सोसाइटी में. So basically he has not represented the role of that the females play in the society of Balinese village. ठीक है, that is the feminist critique. Marginal voices, they are not heard. Okay, so this is all about symbolic approach. थोड़ा सा cognitive देख लेते हैं and last class में फिर next class में सिर्फ थोड़ा सा cognitive and postmodernism बचेगा. तो cognitive approach simple सा है, इसमें so actually just to give you a background what actually happened, 1950s में क्या हुआ कि कई सारे ethnographic research हो रहे थे. That means certain villages that were actually visited by the classical ethnographers or the classical anthropologists, वो बाद में जो उनके juniors आए वो वापस उन villages में जा रहे थे उनको रीस्टडी करने के. So when restudy was happening, so what actually happened, they were giving up or the juniors were coming up with a completely different report. कि मैलिनोस्की ने टोब्रियान के बारे में कुछ बोला और आर्नेट वीनर गई तो उसने कुछ और देखा. मार्गरेट मीड ने सामोआ के बारे में कुछ बोला, डेरेक फ्रीमैन actually went there and presented a completely opposite opinion. And the same was the case with Robert Redfield and Oscar Louis. Robert Redfield went to a village in Mexico, Tepoztlan, and Oscar Louis also visited 10-20 years later. एकदम अलग narrative create कर रहा है. अब ये सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम आ गई एंड दैट क्रिएटेड अ क्वेश्चन मार्क ऑन द वैलिडिटी एंड द क्रेडिबिलिटी ऑफ द एथनोग्राफिक रिसर्च. बोले यार कोई भी जा रहा है कुछ भी लिख के आ रहा है. ओके, how to resolve this problem. The entire discipline was under the question mark ki how to resolve it. That actually led to the birth of new type of ethnographic work, a new type of anthropology that is called as cognitive anthropology, or what is called as new ethnography or ethnosemantics or ethnolinguistics. Okay, now what they say that the anthropologists earlier, they have tried to explain societies in their own idiosyncratic ways. मतलब जो उनके कल्चरली वैलिड वेज हैं उनके थ्रू सोसाइटीज को एक्सप्लेन किया है, उनकी कैटेगरीज को यूज करके सोसाइटी को एक्सप्लेन किया है. एंड दैट्स व्हाई दीज रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ दोज सोसाइटीज आर नॉट एक्यूरेट. तो बोले कि एक्यूरेट कैसे आएगा, तो बोले कि सोसाइटी को उन्हीं के कैटेगरीज में एक्सप्लेन कर. लेट मी गिव यू एन एग्जांपल. तो देयर वाज अ स्कॉलर स्टीफन टाइलर, कॉग्निटिव एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट. उन्होंने बोला कि आप समझो कि सपोज देयर इज एन एलियन हु हैज लैंडेड ऑन अर्थ and he has been sent from certain planet to write about the society that exists on earth. In the initial days he won't understand anything here. Every voice will seem to be unintelligible. That's the same way as you enter into a country with completely different culture and a complete different language. आपकी वो एलियन भी ऐसा ही फेस करेगा. बट आफ्टर ए लॉट ऑफ पेशेंस, सपोज करो कि वो इस धरती पे रहता है, gradually he will try to make sense of it. He will record whatever he thinks is important, whatever he perceives about it. But suppose if we are supposed to read the account that was created by the alien about our own society, we will find that accounts make no sense at all. And that account might be logical or might be making sense to the people for whom he is writing. But for us, a description of our society by that alien will be making no sense of it at all. Moreover, अगर हम उसको बोलेंगे ये तो तूने क्या लिखा है, तुझे समझ में ही नहीं आया, तू वो चीज लिख ही नहीं पा रहा है. Are you getting this idea? So in the same way, the anthropologists were the aliens who were entering into some new societies, and they were writing about that society in their own idiosyncratic ways or in their own cultural categories. And that's why they were presenting some inaccurate descriptions about it. And that's why, in order to correct these inaccuracies, we should be writing about a particular society using their own cultural categories. Okay, so this is the basic idea of cognitive anthropology. The accurate description by using the cultural categories of the natives only. So how they see culture? So they say that, अब यही से मेजर आपको लिखना है, culture is a set of mental model. Culture mental model है. Okay, and the aim of the anthropologist is to duplicate this mental model so that one could think like a native. Duplication of this mental model so that one could think like a native. ठीक है? Now, so here in this case, what they say that a particular model will be considered to be accurate if any person would be able to replicate the way a native actually thinks. उसकी thinking को replicate कर पाएगा, आप उसके तरीके से सोच पाओगे. And here what they are trying to say or what they are trying to do is, their aim is to reproduce the cultural realities. मतलब मेरी कल्चर मेरे लिए ये it's real, हाउ आई एम सीइंग दिस वर्ल्ड इज रियल फॉर मी. अब हो सकता है कि मेरी लेंस से वो कुछ अलग तरीके से दिख रहा हो, बट आपको वो लेंस सबके लिए क्रिएट कर देनी. ओके, सो दैट वो लेंस कोई भी लगाएगा तो you will be able to see the same reality as I am experiencing. Okay, that is to reproduce the cultural realities of a particular culture. That is, culture is a set of mental model and the aim is to duplicate this model so that one could think like a native. अब उसके लिए क्या जरूरी है? So here comes what is called as theory of mind. That is, you have to step into the mind of the person in order to duplicate the mental model. Step into the mind of the person in order to duplicate the mental model. Are you getting this? So I usually use this example कि suppose करो इस class में I gave this box to everyone, closed box. इसमें कुछ सामान रखा हुआ है and I ask everybody to shake this box. Okay, and the sound that you hear is that of some kind of marbles. Okay, आप कंचे पड़े हुए हैं. And when I ask you कि what is it, what is inside this box, so you will unanimously say कि कंचे लग रहे हैं. You will say marbles are there in the box. Okay, but when you open the box, you find instead of marbles there are some gems वाली जो toffees पड़ी हुई, and they are making the similar kind of sound. Okay, now suppose करो Namita was not present in the class. She entered into the class lately. Okay, I gave one box to her and asked her to shake it. But instead of asking her what is in the box, I asked every one of you that what she is going to respond now. So every one of you will say, ये भी वही बोलेगी कि marbles है इसमें. Now doing so, what you have done, you have stepped into mind of Namita and try to think like how Namita would think in this scenario when she was shaking the box. ठीक है, तभी तो आपने उसके बिहाफ पे रिस्पॉन्ड किया कि भाई ये कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड करेगी, ये भी बोलेगी मार्बल्स है. ओके, so we actually do this act every day in our life. Suppose if I am proposing a girl, if I make a statement, okay, so my next statement depends upon what the girl is thinking about the previous statement. अब वो तो बोल नहीं रही है, पर what I will be doing in unconsciously, I am stepping into the mind of the girl and trying to interpret or trying to understand what she would have been thinking about the first statement that I would have made. If I feel that she would be thinking that the statement was not correct, या बड़ा cheap सा statement है, so I will modify the other statement or I will add another statement to it if she is taking that statement positively. But in throughout this conversation, I am stepping into the mind of the other person and trying to understand how he or she is perceiving my statement. When I am speaking lie, suppose करो मैंने झूठ बोला, तो मैं झूठ पहला झूठ बोलूंगा. Again I will step into the mind of the student in order to understand how he or she is perceiving my lie, based on which I will make another statement. So in throughout the conversation, I am stepping into the mind of the person, other person. So I am assuming that the other person is a psychological agent with a state of mind and entering into state of mind of that person, trying to understand his or her perception of the outer world and then correspondingly changing my responses to it. पेंटिंग्स देखने जाते हो, मॉडर्न आर्ट्स जिसको कहते हैं, मॉडर्न आर्ट में भी तो आप क्या करते हो, यू आर स्टेपिंग इनटू द माइंड ऑफ द पेंटर. वहां पे मॉडर्न आर्ट में डायरेक्ट डिपिक्शन कुछ नहीं होता है कि लड़का है लड़की है क्या है, बट एक रैंडम सा कुछ फिगर है. यू आर ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर्टिस्ट वुड हैव थॉट व्हाइल मेकिंग दिस मॉडर्न आर्ट, द सो कॉल्ड मॉडर्न आर्ट. तो उसमें क्या होता है, यू आर स्टेपिंग इनटू द माइंड ऑफ द पेंटर in order to understand what he was thinking while drawing this picture. Okay, and once you understand और once you perceive that कि वो क्या सोच रहा था, तब वो पेंटिंग आपके लिए मीनिंगफुल बन जाएगी. Else that painting would become like a random shade of color. पर जब आप उसके when you step into the mind of that person, that will make sense to you. Okay, this is theory of mind, stepping into the mind of other person. But it's easier said than done. So stepping into the mind, nobody has direct access someone's mind. ठीक है, खास करके उन सोसाइटीज में जहां पे लैंग्वेज शेयर्ड नहीं है. यहाँ पे तो लैंग्वेज शेयर्ड है, तो आई कैन एक्चुअली, या कल्चर भी शेयर्ड है, तो आई कैन एक्चुअली स्टेप इनटू योर माइंड. So nobody has direct access how to step into somebody's mind. So what to do? They use linguistic analysis. They use language to step into the minds of other culture or other natives. ठीक है, मतलब natives belong to different culture. So they go for linguistic analysis, and here comes the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. What does it say? Language is a force in itself. It shapes how we perceive the world, or it coerces our thought. Right? Language is a force in itself. आपने पढ़ा होगा Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. It says that language is a force. It coerces our thoughts. Okay. For example, if I say that I have been recruited as an urban transport specialist in Uber, that makes a difference, and that actually means driver. Okay, या आप Uber में driver की job लगी है. Now this two words, urban transport specialist or a driver, makes different perceptions in our mind, isn't it? Okay, or the company is following lean in policies, or the company structure is getting leaned, or company is going for mass layoffs. अब आपको mass layoff बोला गया, लग रहा है कि कितने chaotic condition है कि आधे से ज्यादा लोगों को नौकरी से निकाल दिया जाएगा, और बोले कि lean structure की तरफ जा रहे हैं. That means that is are not the labors which are not required, which are liabilities to the company, they will be removed. ठीक है, अच्छा है. Okay, mass layoff बोल दिया तो बोले कि भाई साहब अब तो रिसेशन आ गया, नौकरी नहीं है, ये है वो है, 100 प्रॉब्लम्स. और लीन स्ट्रक्चर बोले तो बोले कि मैनेजमेंट एफिशिएंसी की तरफ जा रही है. ओके, और कंपनी इज गोइंग फॉर कॉस्ट कटिंग. ओके, और कंपनी इज गोइंग फॉर एफिशिएंट मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रक्चर. कॉस्ट कटिंग मतलब भिखारी हो गई कंपनी, पैसा नहीं बचा है उसके पास खर्च करने के लिए. और एफिशिएंट मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रक्चर, नाउ दे विल मेक श्योर दैट एवरी पेनी दैट इज बीइंग स्पेंट is spent wisely. Okay, language है, but it is coercing or it is creating a different kind of perception in your mind. Or maybe army mission actually led to a lot of destruction of the civilian property. One statement, and army mission has a lot of collateral damage. Other state, अब collateral damage, it's like कि लगता है कि दिस इज ए पार्ट एंड पार्सल. जब भी कहीं पे आर्मी ऑपरेशंस होंगे तो देयर विल बी सम कोलैटरल डैमेज, इट्स ए पार्ट एंड पार्सल ऑफ इट. और दूसरे केस में आपको आर्मी एक तरीके से विलन लग रही होगी. ओके, टू वेज, बट द थॉट्स दैट इज कमिंग इन आवर माइंड इज डिफरेंट. दैट इज व्हाट Sapir-Whorf hypothesis suggested, that language shapes our thoughts. Okay, now here they say that both Edward Sapir and Benjamin Whorf, they make a statement that if you can understand or if you can replicate the classification system of a language, you can easily understand the view or the natives point of view how they are viewing the outer world. Means आपको language की classification system को समझना है. You can write this statement. Replicating the classification system of any language, replicating the classification system of any language would give an anthropologist ability to view the world in the same way as the native speakers of that language. Ability to view the world in the same way as the native speakers of that language. ओके तो बोला कि अगर आपको नेटिव्स मतलब अगेन रिकॉलिंग दैट पॉइंट, कल्चर इज अ सेट ऑफ मेंटल मॉडल. द एम इज टू डुप्लीकेट दैट मेंटल मॉडल सो दैट वन कुड थिंक लाइक नेटिव. ओके, हाउ टू duplicate that mental model? Replicate the classification system of that language. Okay, so that you will understand the native conceptual categories. That is how they view the world. Okay, how? So for example, एक tribe है, say one example that I'll talk about, Harold Conklin, Hanunu tribe है. तो Hanunu tribe उसके पास गए, उन्होंने देखा कि वो जंगल में रहते हैं फिलीपींस में, and every Hanunu tribe can differentiate 1625 different species of plants. अब उसी जंगल में वो जा रहे हैं तो वो 1625 तरीके के स्पीशीज को आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते कि ये पेड़ है, ये वो पेड़ है, वगैरह वगैरह. तो नाउ हाउ ही इज व्यूइंग द वर्ल्ड, एंड व्हेन ए पर्सन लाइक यू एंड मी एंटरिंग इनटू द सेम फॉरेस्ट, तो वो मुश्किल से 3-4 पेड़ों को जानता होगा, तो वो सारे पेड़ों को एक एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कैटेगरी में देख रहा है. हम लोग मतलब ग्रुप ऑफ पेड़ हैं बस है. ओके, आई एम नॉट डिफरेंशिएटिंग देम, और मे बी डिफरेंशिएटिंग में भी ये टॉल है, ये थोड़ा शॉर्ट है, इसके पत्ते थोड़े बड़े हैं, ये छोटे. बट इमेजिन हनूनू हु हैज 1625 नेम्स इन हिज माइंड, और लेट्स से एन इंडिविजुअल, आई एम एंटरिंग इनटू माय फैमिली. ठीक है, मैं अपने घर जा रहा हूँ आईएएस बनने के बाद, वहां पे 20 लोग मेरे परिवार के खड़े, and every person is distinct individual for me. ये मेरे फादर है, मेरी मदर है, सिस्टर, मेरे चाचा, ताया, and XYZ जो भी. Now suppose Shahrukh Khan comes to your house and everybody is waiting at the doorstep waiting for Shahrukh Khan. अब उस शाहरुख खान के लिए 20 फैंस हैं. ओके, he does not recognize ये आपकी मदर है, ये फादर है. No, 20 random people, fans are standing in front of him waiting for him. He does not even bother. मतलब उसकी कैटेगरी अलग है उन 20 लोगों को देखने की, मेरी कैटेगरी उन 20 लोगों को देखने की अलग है. फादर मदर, चाचा, ताया एंड XYZ. राइट? सो दिस इज व्हाट cognitive anthropologists they say, Sapir-Whorf was saying that replicate the classification system of any language that would give the ability to an anthropologist to think like native. हमें वही करना है, replicate the classification system of any language, and this is what is called as native conceptual categories or domain. So what they do, they study the language and try to find out the native conceptual categories or the domains of a language. So what does domain means? It's a pattern of classification of objects in a society. That is what is a domain is. Pattern of classification of objects in a society. ओके, अब बहुत कॉमन है. आप जैसे मान लो कि आप अपने शहर में घूम रहे हो. अब आप अपने शहर में घूम रहे हो तो आपको एक एक बिल्डिंग पता है, ये एक्स बिल्डिंग है, ये वाई बिल्डिंग है, ये जेड बिल्डिंग है. आप एक नए शहर में जाते हो, आपसे कोई पूछे कि क्या क्या देख के आए, मान लो आप दुबई चले गए, पहली बार जा रहे हो, तो क्या देख के आए, आप बोलोगे यार बिल्डिंग ही बिल्डिंग बनी हुई है. ओके, बिकॉज दैट बिल्डिंग्स डू नॉट मेक एनी काइंड ऑफ category in your brain. But in your city, when you move from one street to another, you can recognize that transition, that this was the earlier building, this was my school, this is the bank, this is the girls hostel जिसके यार मैं चक्कर लगाता था. ये सब buildings को आप recognize कर रहे हो distinctly, right? But moving in a strange city, new city, maybe पहली बार आप दिल्ली आए, आपको कुछ याद नहीं रहेगा, means some random buildings are there, कुछ याद नहीं, right? क्योंकि वो कैटेगरीज एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करती. यस, व्हेन यू मूव इन दिस लेन ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर में 20 बार 25 बार 30 बार, तो आपको एक एक लैंडमार्क्स याद हो जाएंगे. ये अग्रवाल है, ये गोल चक्कर है, ये बेसिकली फ्रेंड्स रेस्टोरेंट है, ये लेवल अप आईएएस है, एंड XYZ. दीज लैंडमार्क्स विल कम टू, सो दिस इज नाउ अ कैटेगरी इन योर ब्रेन. यू कैन एक्चुअली एक्सप्लेन थ्रू इट. But for a person who is very first time entering into old Rajendra Nagar, he does not understand these kind of categories. Are you getting this idea? So this what you have to do is, तो आप सोचो कि आप जब पहली बार ORN आए थे, first time, how you perceived the outer world and now how you see ORN. दोनों में अंतर है. उस समय everything was seeming very much homogeneous. कोई अंतर ही नहीं समझ में आ रहा था. आप एक जगह से दूसरी जगह गए, आपको समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है कि इसमें क्या अंतर है वहां पे. But now, since you have been living here maybe for a year, you can now recognize the basic landmark points. Now there is a category that has been created in your mind. That this is one category Agarwal Suite है, this is another category की वाजीराम है, this is another category Level Up है, या Friends है, XYZ. So आपके दिमाग में वो blueprint बन चुका है. A model of ORN has been created in your mind, and that's why you can understand it, feel it. Okay, for a newcomer, कोई सेंस नहीं बनेगा. So in the same way, when a Hanunu will be looking at his forest, he can identify 1625 species. While a newcomer like me, when he enters into the forest, it's just a homogeneous group of trees, some random trees. Okay, so in order to understand how Hanunus view the forest, you have to find out the native conceptual categories, that is the domains, okay, or the pattern of classification of object in that particular language. One thing. And second thing, what you have to do is go for componential analysis. Componential analysis. That is definite criteria through which objects are categorized in a particular culture. ठीक है. Definite characters, you can write this, definite characteristics by which objects are sorted in each domain. Definite characteristics by which objects are sorted in each domain. ठीक है. So for example, if I enter into this class, या आप में से कोई भी, हमको बोला जाए कि इस क्लास में ऑब्जेक्ट्स बड़े रैंडम पड़े हुए हैं, इनको आप सॉर्ट करके रख दो. तो आप क्या करोगे कि ये जो स्टील चेयर्स हैं वो एक साथ कर दोगे, और जो प्लास्टिक चेयर्स हैं उनको एक साथ कर दोगे, राइट. अब एक फर्नीचर वाला आता है, तो बोला जाए कि ये ऑब्जेक्ट बड़े मेसी हो रखे हैं, आप इसको सही करो. तो बेसिकली वो स्टील आप मतलब उसमें भी अब वो क्या करेगा कि प्लास्टिक चेयर्स में जो थोड़ी नई लग रही है उसको आगे की तरफ करेगा, और जिसमें थोड़ा सा स्क्रैच वगैरह है उसको पीछे रखेगा ताकि विजिबल ना रहे. स्टील चेयर में भी उसी तरीके से सॉर्ट कर रहा है. नाउ he has a different way of sorting the object in that domain, as unlike us we have a different way of sorting the object. Maybe I might not be looking at that factor, मैंने randomly सबको एक साथ कर दिया. वो थोड़े से टेक्सचर पे जाएगा, वो देखेगा कौन सा नया लग रहा है, कौन सा ज्यादा पॉलिश लग रहा है, उसको आगे रखेगा. ओके, सो दैट द कस्टमर कम्स, तो वो नए वाले को पिकअप कर ले. So this is called as componential analysis. That is definite characteristics by which object in a domain are sorted. Once you have done so, आपके पास तो सब है कि दुनिया को वो कैसे देख रहे हैं, that categories and how in that category the objects are sorted, you will be able to replicate the mental model. This is what cognitive anthropologists suggested. Culture is a set of mental model. The aim is to duplicate that mental model. उसके लिए आपको दिमाग में घुसना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए लैंग्वेज है, लैंग्वेज से आपको क्या करना है, क्लासिफिकेशन सिस्टम और द नेटिव कंसेप्चुअल कैटेगरीज फाइंड आउट करनी है, दैट इज द डोमेन, एंड हाउ ऑब्जेक्ट इन दैट डोमेन आर सॉर्टेड, दैट इज द कंपोनेंशियल एनालिसिस. This is what cognitive anthropologists aim or cognitive anthropology aims for. Those scholars हैं, we'll see in the next class, Conklin and Tyler and postmodernism. That's it for today. Thank you.